Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to be ranking 30 Doom albums, and today I have joined us with Mazd, and you know him from the Dark Tranquility video, and Monica from the Bathory video. And this collection of albums isn't really your traditional like top 30 most popular Doom albums. We just have a combination of like Epic Doom, Trad Doom, Death Doom, and also Sludge because I believe it counts. And also we do have Born Again by Black Sabbath. Someone picked it. It's not really 100% Doom, but it's more like half Doom, half Trad. And so to start, I want to start like talking like going around the circle about like what Doom means to you or like how much you like Doom. I really enjoy Doom. Epic Doom and Death Doom are probably my favorite subgenres. Um, that's probably all I have to say about it. I really love the heavy, crunchy riffs of Doom, especially in Sludge and Death Doom. And just like the triumphantness in Epic Doom. And then Maz, you'll go next.
I really like Epic and Trad Doom the most because I feel like when it's just the overall like atmosphere of it can be really captivating. It can evoke a lot of different emotions, and I really like um the simplicity of like a really good riff that's just simple. Um, that there's just not like much flashiness to it. It's just a purely like a genre that you just kind of feel, and I really like that about it. I like the influence that it's had across multiple different genres and the endless amounts of bands that the originals kind of spawned, I guess. So I really like it.
Doom is probably my second or third favorite subgenre in general. And personally, my favorite ones are Epic and Trad, like Mas said, because I really appreciate the atmosphere that they bring. And I mostly listen to Doom for the riffs as I do any other genre. And the thing that I appreciate so much about Doom is that so many of these bands, so many songs have so many like riffs that just make you turn your face. I don't know how to describe it. Like scrunch your face up because they're so dirty. Like that's what I love and appreciate so much about Doom. I love the versatileness of it. I love um like how sad and depressing it can sound, and then the next moment there's like a rush of just the nastiest riffs you've heard of. Just so much I love about Doom in general.
Okay. So we're gonna get right into the ranking, and everyone knows the drill. All I do is just wave my mouse around, and I just click on a random album, and that's how we will order it till we get to the last one. So up first we got Crowbar. Okay, we're starting out strong. This is the Crowbar self-titled. I did not write much down for this album. Basically, this album is riff after riff, just relentless riffs. The like this is riff the band pretty much. It just seems like this album has like a never-ending supply of just great riffs. Like after one riff ends, another great riff comes in. Like in All I Had, High Rate Extinction, Will That Never Dies, No Quarter, and especially Existence as Punishment. Like the dual guitaring in that fucking song is so amazing. Sick guitar tone as well, as Crowbar always has. I know I don't really have much to say about this one besides it's an easy S tier for me.
Crowbar is one of my favorite bands, like of all time. Just in general, everything that can be said like about this album. Like first of all, um, I believe it's their second album. It's one of their early ones when they had a more um doomy sound before they gave into the more hardcore influence stuff. But um, like the way I would describe this album is it is one of their most just miserable sounding pieces of work. Like every single song on this album, whether it's fast or like slow as hell, is just fucking miserable. Like he never sounds happy at any point, and the riffs don't like it complement that. Like with every crushing riff, there's a crushing vocal performance, and I think that's what I love about it so much. Um, like you said, the riffs in like High Rank Extinction and All I Had, Will That Never Dies, like all those songs are just fucking crushing. Um, Holding Nothing and I Have Failed are personally like my favorites. They just
I have
are
failed.
dude, it's so fucking like miserable. Like I Have Failed is one of like in the fact that it's a closing track too. So like you go through like all of these incredibly depressing ass songs, and then it ends on the most heart wrenching song that I think Crowbar has ever made, like in general.
Damn.
It's one of my favorites. Not to mention the Led Zeppelin cover. They covered No Quarter by Led Zeppelin on this album,
Oh damn, I didn't know
and that like overall Crowbar has really good covers, but this one's really good because they just kind of turn it into their own song. Like you'd think it's a song that they wrote if you didn't know it was Led Zeppelin. Um, I love the. I'm not a huge fan of the early albums' productions. Like the first three Crowbar albums have a little bit of wacky production, but this one's the best in my opinion. I really like how it sounds. It complements the overall vibe and atmosphere, and everything about it is so, I don't know, miserable. It's just the word I keep coming back to with it. It just sounds fucking awful to experience, and that's in the best way a compliment. I agree that it's an S tier.
This album, I've only listened to it a couple times, or a few times, and I'd agree that it's in either S tier or A tier. I personally really love the New Orleans scene of like sludge and that kind of Louisiana type of doom metal. I really love that so much, and that's something that I really appreciate from this album. There's not much else that I can think of at the moment to say other than I love the tone of the guitars. I especially love the vocals. They're one of my favorite vocals out of like the doom genre. And then my favorite song off the album is actually called Existence is Punishment. I think it's like one of the songs off the album that got stuck in my head every single time I listen to it, which is like 3 times. But yeah, um, I'd put this. I would just stick it in S tier like y'all have.
All right, cool.
Another fun fact about it, real quick, is that this album was actually produced by Phil Anselmo from Pantera.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna
He's the
mention.
producer on it.
Yeah, I was gonna mention how it kind of reminded me of Down's Nola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I believe Kirk Winstein plays guitar in Down, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Because looking at the wiki right now, it says that Kirk Winstein and Phil Anselmo were childhood friends.
That's
So
kind of awesome.
Phil produced this album, and then I guess they did Down together shortly after. So that's pretty cool. Just a bit of Southern sludge fun facts.
Pars. We are back because my dumbass forgot 2 other albums, so yay. Just like the other time. Anyway, next might as well get to the next album. We got Church of Misery. Cool. I also wrote notes down for this one. So this is well, I guess we're getting to the albums where I barely wrote anything for. And I said right off the bat into the first song kind of reminds me of Down mixed with Sabbath, mostly because of the vocals. Very Sabbathy worship, and you can tell because of like the blues type of solos and riff writing. And yeah, like I said, I honestly don't have much to say about it. I think the riffs are cool, but I'm gonna be honest. I think their most recent album is better, and I enjoy it more. I'd probably put this in low A tier.
I mean, Church of Misery is kind of a newer band for me that I got into last year when they released Born Under Mad Sign. Um, I'm not usually the biggest fan of like stoner psychedelic doom, which is kind of what they fall under. Very like master reality worship, um, and like Volume 4 type era Sabbath, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
But what I like about Church of Misery is they sound so. First of all, they're from Japan, which you wouldn't have known by listening to them. They sound very much from like the Californian uh, like stoner rock desert scene, which is really cool. They remind me a lot of stuff like that um, from that era and scene. I think they're really cool that they have like a consistent theme of like serial killers. They always sing about like some kind of American serial killer, and I think that's really cool. But if, as for the music, I agree. I probably like their most recent better, but this album has some of their best like hooks. I guess there's a lot of hooks on this album, and I love the more sporadic solos that they have. Like it just like some of their guitar solos on this album straight up sound like an old school blues song, and I really like it. Especially the song "Blood Sucking Freak" is so fucking good. Um, that's one I have like on repeat all the time when I'm listening to them. Is that song and "Born to Raise Hell" are like my two favorite off of it. My only complaint is that some of the songs drag on a little bit much, especially towards the end.
Mhm.
The last song, Badlands, I feel like kind of went on a little longer than it needed to, and the opening song, while like really good, doesn't really need to be 9 minutes long for what it is. They're like overall, it's kind of like a one-trick pony album, but it's a good trick. It's definitely like an A tier. I agree, like low A tier. I
Yeah.
really like it.
This is when my hot take comes in. Um, Honestly, I don't really care much for this album at all. Like, I appreciate the production, how the vocals sound. Like everything sounds good. It's just none of the riffs, none of the atmosphere, just nothing really captivated me. I do agree with both of y'all that I do like their most recent album a little better. Even that album, I do have all the songs liked off that album, and I like them enough to have them liked on my Spotify. But as for this album, I just don't. I don't like any songs. Again, I appreciate like I appreciate their unique style that they kind of bring into the scene. And you'd expect for me to like this album because I love Black Sabbath and Born Again and all that, but it's just um I don't want to say mediocre. I don't want to put them down that bad. It's a fine album. I would just put them in C tier in my opinion.
All
Kind of
right.
understandable actually,
I
but
think
yeah,
we should settle for B tier since we both have a like
Yeah.
low A.
yeah.
I think that's good enough. All right. Next up, we got Death SS. Cool. I actually have more written here. Um, I said interesting album. The galloping part in Death is pretty cool. Black Mummy had a solid riff. Werewolf, it just straight turns into like a thrash song. The Hanged Ballad is actually a pretty well done ballad. I kind of actually and really enjoyed that one. Vocals actually shine on that track as well. Murder Angel kind of made me realize that this is more of a mix of doom and trad metal more than just like a whole doom metal package like what Born Again is. Um, I like the varied instrumentation in Ancient Days with the organ and saxophone. And I did kind of like the Merciful Fate cover at the end. My main issue with this album is pretty much the vocals for the most part. They don't seem to really fit that well or I don't know, they just don't clash. It doesn't really clash well with me with like the instrumentation. I feel like if there's a different vocalist, this probably would be higher for me. Um, like if they had like a pentagram style or just pentagram sounding vocals, I think this would be higher. But for me, it's B tier, and that's all I have.
Here comes my take, and I don't think Monica's gonna be happy with me, and I'm very sorry. But
Oh, no.
I didn't really fuck with this album that much. Um, I wanted to really like it, because there's so many elements in it that are like so good. Personally, I agree with Aaron that the vocals are kind of like meh, and but just like there were just times like the production sounded kind of thin at times, and a lot of the riffs like either went on too long or didn't happen enough to like hook me. Like that sounds weird, but like there were some riffs that I was just like kind of bored of, and then they just continued to go throughout the song. Was really just like into it the same way I would be with other bands like them. The cover is pretty good. I will admit that he mentioned the Merciful Fate cover. But like overall, like there's just no song that I listened to that was like I instantly got hooked and like remembered it. I kind of had to like go back and listen to a few of the songs a few times. I was like, oh, I remember like this, or listen to like a few sections again and really like dissect it. Like it just didn't really stick with me. I didn't click with it that much. I didn't love like there were definitely some cool riffs, but I just didn't love it that much. If I were to put it anywhere, like it's definitely not D tier. I would put it in like a high C personally.
That's perfectly understandable with both of y'all's opinions. I understand not being the biggest fan of the vocals because yeah, they sound a little funny. But I think those vocals fit perfectly on this album. Like this album has its own kind of like niche, and I really love the trad in this album. I don't know why I love this album as much as I do. The album cover is I really love the album cover. Um my top two favorite songs off the album is Vampire and Terror. Terror is my favorite parts, the chorus. I really love the parts where the guitars just go like they just sound high pitched. I don't know. I just really love that song. Even though I get that some of the songs, some of the riffs do drag on for a bit, I get that part and it's understandable, but I don't know, I really love it. The Hanged Ballad is one of my favorite ballads in general for Doom as well. And I love the kind of chaotic part towards the end of that song. It sounds kind of like a circus, and I think that's funny. Um, and then as for Vampire, I love the part where he goes. I forget how the lyrics exactly go, but he goes something something vampire. I love that part so much. The chorus. Um, I think the riffs, they're pretty basic riffs, but I really like them a lot. And I just have a heartfelt, like I just have a soft spot for this album. Personally, I would put it in honestly an A tier.
Okay. To put everyone's opinion in the bucket, I think it's best we could put it at the bottom of B tier. Okay, and up next we got another Monica album. Cool. Okay, this is the Obsessed self-titled. I've actually listened to their newest one and it is boring as hell. Um, so for this album though, Tombstone Highway, kind of sounds like something like a bunch of 70s hippies would get high to. Um, the way she flies is pretty good, but it's a shame it's only 2 minutes. Apparently this was recorded in 1985 but was released in 1990, which makes sense to why this sounds super 80s. Especially since the guitar has a lot of chorus on it, and that is a very 80s thing to do in general. Forever Midnight really highlights the effects of the guitars. Ground Out has a sick groove. My main gripe with this album is that some of the songs don't really feel fleshed out and could have used some more work and like before they went to the studio. Um, but I enjoyed it. Um, I think it helps that I listened to one album by them and it was fucking garbage. And this was actually pretty decent. I this would be like the lightest, the very lightest A tier for me. That's all I
Oh
have.
wow.
I'm really sorry, Monica, that you had to have two back to back. But so okay, so my only experience with the Obsessed, I really like Lunar Womb. That was the one I heard before, Lunar Womb, like the one that came out right after this, and that one was fucking awesome. So I like went into this with like a lot of high expectations, and I just kind of came out with the most like I don't hate it, but nothing really stuck to me. Uh, like Forever Midnight is an awesome song. I have that one liked. I like that song a lot, and just like everything on this album felt so like one note, and I don't know. I kind of agree with like what Aaron was saying about like it doesn't really feel like a lot of the songs were fleshed out. Kind of like they had a rough draft of a song, and they were like, I don't know how to finish it, so they just recorded it and slapped it on the album. And that's like kind of what most of this album feels like. The vocals are great. I love the vocalist. Um, but I do kind of just wish that a lot of the songs felt more, I don't know, just like an 80s trad doom album. Like it just doesn't feel like an 80s trad doom album. And I don't know how to describe it. It's such a limbo. It's such a limbo of an album. And I don't hate it, but I for the life of me cannot say I like it either. It's so weird, but I'll say it's like a B tier.
I feel hypocritical saying that I do enjoy this album a lot because why do I enjoy this album so much when I don't enjoy Church of Misery? Anyways, I love this album a lot solely because of the guitar tone. I love how like low and I guess deep it sounds. That's what keeps me going throughout the whole album. And then you have some songs that are bangers, like Aaron said, The Way She Fly, Tombstone Highway are my top favorites. And then I do get it that all their songs kind of sound like off this album kind of sound like just one song, but like different elements added to it to make it slightly different. But in the end, I just really love the tone of the guitars. I really love it. I would put it in A tier, honestly. I'd be fine with it in B tier, though.
Yeah, because I want to in front or
For the
behind.
record, I liked it better than Death SS, but
Yeah,
less than
that's
Church of Misery.
um.
Like,
We're gonna put it in front for now.
yeah, that's fine. I don't really care.
All right.
Like,
And
again, like it's a fine album. Like, it's music. It's a serviceable album if you really enjoy like 80s trad.
okay, I realize we haven't gotten a single album yet that I really want to talk someone's ear off with. So I'm gonna go ahead and circle some places where there might be one.
That's cheating.
And hell yeah, let's go. Okay. So this is of course Nightfall by Candlemass. And what could be said about this album as a whole in that hasn't already been said? Although I prefer a different album over this one, which we will get to, this this holds a place in my heart in its own right. Like, Well of Souls is a sick as fuck opener and is one of my favorite riffs by this band. At Gallows End is probably one of my favorite tracks from this band. Period. Really love the intro that goes into a more driving riff. Samaritan is a banger as well. Dark Are the Veils of Death has one of the most fun riffs on the entire album. Mourner's Laminate also just has the most sinister sounding riff on the album, and I was fortunate enough to see this song live when it was dark and windy out, and it was such an experience. Bewitched is also a classic. Like literally, like people who have been into metal for years know, like the chorus, like "You are bewitched." Like Messiah's vocal performance is of course legendary. There's really not much to say about that. Um, I think this album would be higher for me if I think it would be better than I'm just gonna say the debut if it didn't have four or three or four interlude intro tracks, because I feel like that just kind of like floods the track listing in my opinion. But otherwise, that it's amazing album. S tier definitely for me. That's all I have.
Only thing I have to say about this, well, no, I'm gonna hold that for a different album. I have quite a few that I could say that about. Um, I agree that this album is a fucking classic. I mean, you're right. Well as Souls into Gallows End into Samaritan is like the craziest run that an album could have as like the intro to it. Just straight up like side A, having those three back to back is phenomenal. Um, Dark of the Veils of Death is one of my favorite Candlemass songs in general. That song, the riff is only stuck in my head. The fucking chorus section is so good. Like, just the performance and the riffs and everything is, it just keeps me coming back. Um, yeah, Bewitched is classic. That music video, the chorus, the vocals, everything. I'm just kind of repeating what you said, but I agree that my main issue with it is the amount of fluff that the interludes give it. The interludes add like a good 8 minutes of fluff to an already 46-minute album. And this is like a really weird criticism, but I feel like some of these songs could have just been longer. Like straight up, these songs are good enough that like more of it really wouldn't have drug it that much. Like I don't know. That's like a whole other tangent. But another thing I love about this is the guitar tone because it feels like it has like that weird Swedish metal like crunch. You know how like some Swedish bands, like not quite like the buzzsaw tone of like the death metal, but some Swedish bands have like this crunch to their guitar tone. And like it just feels so crisp on this album. It feels so like it almost like scratches your ears to listen to. Like when it gets heavy as fuck. It just like it sits in your head. And then when it gets like beautiful and melodic, you really just get lost in some of those riffs, and that's what I love about it. Personally, this is like an S tier or like a really really high A.
I'm gonna defend the floof on this album because I actually really love the floof. My favorite out of the three like fluffy parts of the album is Marche Funèbre because it reminds me of like on my death day or something, someone carrying my grave and they're just like mourning over the loss of me. I don't know. I really like that song and I love like the feeling that it invokes on you when you listen to it. Um but other than that, it's a classic album and without a doubt it's S tier. This used to be my favorite album as of several months ago, but after listening to this album and Solitude, which we'll be getting into here soon, um, this album's still one of my top Candlemass albums, but it's not my number one anymore. Um, you have amazing songs like Bewitched, Samaritan, which is probably my favorite off the album. And when Aaron and I went to Hell's Heroes back in March, we had the privilege to see this album played in its entirety Yeah, this album is an easy S tier for me, and I also, like Matt said, really love the guitar tone on this album. It's amazing.
Okay, I would like to add on. I agree with Maz that the fluff could literally have been added to the tracks and just have made them longer. Like there's no need to like have more tracks than it already is. Just add it to the song already. But that's all I have left to add. Um, yeah. So that's a no brainer right there.
No one likes my floof.
Dude, the floof should have been added to the songs.
Like to be fair, like a few of these instrumentals are really good. Like Gothic Stone into Well of Souls is
Mhm.
fucking awesome.
True.
I will defend that. At least it's awesome.
True. All right. Next up we got. Hell yeah. Okay.
Oh,
All right. So, it's time for it's time for the glaze, dude. Time for the fucking glaze. Okay. So out of the gate, this album is a straight 10 for me. Like straight 10 out of 10. There is no dull moment on this album for me. Oh, if you guys don't know, this is Preserved in Time by Wheel. This came out like 3 years ago. Every second of this album is great. Everything from the riffs, from the verses and the choruses, the vocal melodies, just everything. I consider this a classic, just even if it came out a couple years ago. Um, and I really think that more people should know about this album. It is so fucking good. The chorus for "At the Night They Came Upon Us" is just so good. When the shadows takes over, the chorus in that just always gives me goosebumps. She Left in Silence has just a gorgeous chorus as well. The guitar harmonies are fantastic. Aeon of Darkness. You can keep your dream alive with a bullet in your head is a hard line. It's also kind of funny. Hero of the Week might be my favorite riff wise. And the classic line of "Before you prey upon the weak, why don't you kill yourself instead?" They really want you to kill yourself. Um, I like the slight use of harsh vocals in that track as well. Which is like used like once. The closer is amazing as well. This honestly might be a top 40 album for me, like in general. Sick as hell. I would dead ass put this above Nightfall. This is S tier for me. That's all I have.
I agree. In terms of doom metal, this is a straight up 10. Like maybe a top 5 in general for me, like in the genre. Um, this album sent me on like a whole separate side quest of finding like niche doom bands that kind of fit their vibe. This is a mix of like epic doom and trad doom, but it has like that triumphant feel and the overall like impendingness that comes with the song structures and just like it's just so good. Not a single song on this album, like the chorus, you remember. Like every chorus is fucking like instantly memorable. You know exactly what you're getting into by like the first riff. Like the first riff on every song sets the tone for the rest of the track, and is so captivating just every time. Um, Personal favorites, "When the Shadow Takes You Over" is a beautiful track. After All, I love the flow that the chorus has. It's so catchy and like kind of bouncy. I love the lyrics. I feel like that's something that should be mentioned. The lyricism in this album is really good. Um, they're always really creative and well phrased, and you really never know what you're getting. Like it's just kind of a beautiful album overall. Um, in the way it's written, just everything about it. Like the production is clean, it's fresh, it doesn't feel overproduced, yet it doesn't feel dull. Like there's just so much that this album does right. Um, and I really I don't even know how to praise it more. I love this album so much, and it's just a straight up S. I can't praise it enough.
I would put this album in A tier. I agree that it's an amazing album. Um, I have heard the album several times already, but the songs I always come back to is At Night They Came Upon Us and She Left in Silence. But At Night They Came Upon Us, it's probably one of the catchiest songs that I've ever heard. Every single time I listen to that song, it gets stuck in my head for like a week. I'm not even kidding. Uh, I love the production quality of the album, and I also love the tone of the guitars. It kind of sounds chunky. It sounds crispy to me, and I really love the clean vocals as well throughout the album. I think that they go very well, and yeah, I would put this album in A tier. It's an amazing album. I don't think there's a single dull moment or bad part to say about this album.
So then, if there's no bad part in the album, then why are you putting it in A tier instead of S tier?
Just stick it in S tier.
Okay. Now where to put it? You already know where I'll put it, but
I would put it in the very front. I'm gonna be real. Like,
to spare Monica, I think we'll put it in the middle.
yeah, I don't think ordering is really gonna matter in S tier because like these are all albums I kind of put on the same pedestal.
Yeah.
Like they're all winners.
All right. The next album is gonna be another Monica album. Okay. Apparently, when I don't do a circle around ones I want to glaze, I get a Monica album. All right. This is Count Raven. I gotta figure out what. Hang on. Give me.
This is Storm Warning.
Storm Warning. Okay. So this is
Yes.
Storm Warning by Count Raven. To start, the singer sounds like Ozzy. Let's just get that out of the way. The intro riff to the first real track got me intrigued, and the chorus is cool, but the rest of the song kind of dwindled. True Revelation feels like it wants to be Iron Man so bad. In the Name of Rock and Roll is alright. Nothing here really captivating me. Sometimes A Great Nation has an interesting concept if you read the lyrics. Like Christians speak of heaven and live of hell. I think that's a pretty hard line. For like, since they're like probably talking about like fundamentalists. Within the Garden of Mirrors is a banger. I can't lie. Might be the best song off the album too. I do like the cheap sounding like. I just don't know. I like the cheap sounding MIDI like sounds of like in a Devastating Age. But like the track itself is alright. Like a lot of the riffs aren't really hitting. Social Warfare is okay too. This album is solid. It's got good production, good performances, but I don't know. It feels kind of generic in the riff department, in my opinion. This would be in B tier for me.
No,
Um,
Monica can be happy with me this time.
okay, good.
I really like Count Raven overall. I think they're an awesome band. They are like these guys are the most Sabbath worship you can get out of Sabbath worship. But they do have a distinct sound that I love. I'm more Swedish, which means I love like that guitar tone. Again, it just sounds so unique to me. The thing I like about it is while there aren't many different riffs, I guess you could say, like Aaron said, they kind of like lack in riff department. But what this has to me is it has what I love about Trad Doom in the way that it really takes an idea or an atmosphere or something that it like establishes and builds upon it and just like lets you soak in it for like a whole track. Like you're getting what you're getting and you just enjoy it. That's what I like about it. I'll admit a few of the tracks go on a little longer than they probably should. A Devastating Age is a great song, but I never really found it to be like a favorite, and I think it's just because it does go on for like that long. Um, Social Warfare is an awesome song. I really like it. It's a shame that's a it's a closer for it, but it's like one of my favorite Count Raven songs. The opening track, I don't know how to pronounce it, is maybe my favorite Count Raven song, just in general. I love I love the overall like impendingness that they kind of build with their riffs because they go into this riff and it's meaty and they just keep going at it. Like they just hammer at this riff for so long and the vocalist sounds I don't know, like there's something about the vocalist that he just sounds like he's dying.
He
Like
sounds
he doesn't
nasally.
sound yeah, but like I don't know, like in a way that he's like in a way he performs. I don't know. I just really love the way this album feels to listen to. Um, I agree with a lot of the criticisms Aaron had. If I were to rank it, I'd probably put it in like A tier, just solid A. Not quite like an S, but it is really good.
I absolutely love Count Raven, and most especially this album. Like Maz said, Count Raven is basically Black Sabbath, almost 2.0. I love this album, and it's such a great debut of theirs because their riffs. Okay, there's this quote that Maz said just a few seconds ago, and I already forgot it. But it's like if you're given something, you like take it and just like enjoy it. What was it that you said?
You get one riff and you have to sit with it and let it soak.
Yeah, that's what I really love about this album, funny enough. So, the first track in whatever, I that is probably one of the coolest riffs that Count Raven has ever done. I love that riff so much. It makes me happy. And also this album has a special place in my heart, and it's even though I first listened to this album 3 years ago, it's nostalgic to me because I've listened to it a lot my last few months of living with my parents. So it kind of reminds me of that era of my life. And the song that I listened to a lot during that era was True Revelation. I would listen to that every single morning while heading to work. Uh, Within the Garden of Mirrors is also a very fun riff. I love that a lot. Um, and then, not that y'all are hating on the Devastating Age, but that is probably one of my favorite, like, mellow songs of all time. I love that song so much. We were driving back from the Opeth show, and I could not stop singing that song in the car. I sang it like probably 5 times in a row. I love that song so much. I just love the atmosphere of this whole album, and the Devastating Age kind of embraces that atmosphere. And then as for the vocals, I get if you're not a big fan of the vocals, they do sound a little like funny, a little nasally, but I think the vocals fit great with Count Raven as a whole. But yeah, otherwise, I would personally put this album in like in the lower S tier, but I'll be fine with it in A tier as well.
It, if you say
I do kind of
if you say you don't like the vocals, you don't like Ozzy. Because
yeah.
it
I was
sounds
about to
like
say I'm
Ozzy.
gonna want to add on to the thing. Like I do like the vocals. I think Doom as a whole, like the band, especially in trad, um, a lot of its identity is in the vocalist, and sometimes a vocalist is so just perfect. And I think Count Raven's one of those examples where like the vocalist just fits them so well.
Yes.
Yeah, so I agree. I think some averaging
And
out,
that
I would
comment I
put an
made
A
about the
tier.
riffs was a compliment, by the way. That's what I like about them.
All right. Where should I wave my? Let's do it here. Let's do it here. Let's go. Who are we gonna get? Yeah, let's fucking go.
Holy
Okay.
shit!
This is Woods 5, Gray Skies in Electric Light by
Would Zavia pray?
Woods of Ypres. There is a lot to say about this album. Um,
Holy yap!
so Lightning and Snow is probably is one of my favorite songs ever. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. Oh, I forgot to say that this is more like a combination of black metal and trad doom and gothic and goth metal. I don't fucking know. This is a combination of a bunch of shit. Um, and it works fantastically. The album, oh my, so fucking catchy. This is um, like besides like Wheel, this is probably the other very catchy album on this entire tier list. Um, Super catchy songs like Death is Not an Exit, Career Suicide, Keeper of the Ledge, Kiss My Ashes Goodbye. Like, dude, I cannot listen to this album and just not like when I'm done, just like not sing a song that I just heard from it. This album does a solid job of combining, like I said, all the elements of black metal, doom, and gothic metal. As the vocals really remind me of Peter Steele when he's not doing like the screaming and stuff. Some of the lyrics, for this, honestly, despite it sounding depressing, um, are also kind of uplifting, like Career Suicide, where it's not really where it's saying like just because like you fucked up with your career doesn't mean your life is over or something like that. Great production on this great production on this, but I would change how the bass drum sounds. It kind of sounds a little clicky to me, which I'm not a big fan of clicky drums, but that doesn't really take like much enjoyment out, if any, honestly. It's just something to point out. It is amazing that David did most of this on here, while Joel did the bass and some of the guitar. Great riffs across this entire thing. Other than I'm not a super big fan of alternative ending. Compared to literally every single track off of this album, that is just so fucking goated. Especially the second to last track, where it's just so fucking, you just want to cry to it. It's just so good. Um, yeah, despite me not being like, alternate ending is not a bad song whatsoever. It's just kind of, a primitive ways to my leprosy or something like that, which is kind of a weak song in my opinion. Um, but this is an easy S tier for me. That's all I have.
Okay, I have a lot to unpack because for starters, I discovered this album when I was like at a real low point in my life. So this is like one of the few therapy albums. This is like one of the like fucking 3 albums I've ever cried while listening to. Like the fucking lyricism on this album is unreal. Like I don't usually compare lyrics to like poetry that often, but some of the songs on this album feel like poetry. Just straight up. I don't know how else to put it. The fact that this was written and performed by 2 people at the time uh, of this coming out. Also, this was written by David Gold and Joel Violet. Joel Violet did guitars, bass, piano, and David did vocals, guitars, and drums. Um, 2 very talented musicians, obviously. But it just everything about this album in the way like it released after David Gold just died straight up. Like he died and then it came out. Um, like that's just kind of chilling and with all like the lyrical content and the sounds. Like it just everything flows together so well on this album. You're right about being catchy. Every single chorus and riff on this album feels memorable, catchy. It's got so many hooks to it. Despite being over an hour long, it is worth every single minute, in my opinion. Um, Personal favorite of mine: Death is Not an Exit, Lightning and Snow, Keeper of the Ledger, Traveling Alone, and Adora Vivos. The first 5 tracks on the album are like some of my favorite like goth trad songs in general, and the fact that later on it just gets doomier and doomier. Like Kiss My Ashes has one of the coolest doomy sections where like I think it's in like the chorus section where like he hits like the guitar chug while the piano chord strikes, and he hits like that low deep vocal part that he loves to do. It just feels like it just clicks. Like that whole song is so good. Um, the main riff in Career Suicide, where like the main riff happens and it's an instant mimic of what the chorus melody is gonna be, is so satisfying to listen to. Just like, oh my god, I love this album so much. Just overall, it's such an easy S for me. It's probably it's one of the 10 out of 10 albums I have that's on like this list in general. It is so good. It's like S for me, just straight up.
I also agree. This album is easily an S tier for me. Um, like Matt said, the fact that um he died right before the album came out kind of adds like a almost creepy, chilling vibe to the whole album. That's always what I've gotten from this album, just knowing the fact that he died before this album was put out. It's I don't know, it feels kind of like he's watching over. This sounds so weird saying out loud, but it feels like I'm being watched over every time I listen to this album. I don't know why. Um but yeah, I love the vocals. One of the some of the best vocals in Doom in my opinion. I love the mix of like the trad and the gothic. I think those two really go well. And then you have your songs like Kiss My Ashes Goodbye and Career Suicide, which I think are the most iconic off the album. Career Suicide, even though it's like a little depressing, it's probably the happiest sounding one off the album. I really love and enjoy the lyrics. And I think my personal favorite song is either Modern Life Architecture or again Kiss My Ashes Goodbye. I really like Modern Life Architecture because it just sounds like you're descending into like a depressive state, and I feel like that song kind of mimics that descending of like your mentality or something. I don't know. But like if my depression was dwindling, I feel like Modern Life Architecture would be the perfect song to mimic. Um but yeah, I would put this album in S tier.
All right, good. Good that we all
The
came
thing the thing you
came to
mentioned
terms with that
about
one.
when you mentioned modern life architecture, I forgot to like mention this, but that also like remember I said about like Kiss My Ashes, like the guitars mixed with the pianos is so like present on that song. It's so fucking good. Um, I'd also like to mention that Traveling Alone is one of the greatest Doom songs I think ever. I adore that song. It's maybe my favorite on the album, and just, man, it's like a fucking sad as fuck, but I love it so much.
Yeah, I think Lightning and Snow is probably still my favorite because of the fucking crack, the how he sings, crack of electric light and all that, and that
Dude,
part.
yeah. There's not even like you could say any song in this album's your favorite, and I don't think anyone would fault you.
If unless you say alternative ending is your favorite, I'd probably say something, but everything else, yeah,
I don't know. They're all good though. I
they
agree.
are all
Alternate endings
good.
maybe the one I don't like revisit all the time, but god damn.
Yeah. All right. Next Doom album we got, and okay, we got another Monica
Oh,
album. All right.
okay.
All right. This I actually listened to this album once before, um, and then I went back and listened to it again. The first time you probably would have not liked my answer. This time, let's see. Where Darkness is Light is a pretty good start to this album. Riff is good, although a bit generic. The Graveyard of Broken Dreams has a pretty sick chorus. This song in general is just the most memorable in my opinion to this entire album. The Graveyard of Broken Dreams. Smoke Filled Room is decent as a decent interlude. My main issue with this album is just my main issue is that just how generic it is. Besides the Graveyard of Broken Dreams, like I honestly feel like that is just the one track you just take from this album. And just you don't have to listen to the rest of the album. I think it's a solid for one listen, but nothing to really return to other than the track I just said. I would definitely put this in like low B tier. That's all I have.
I think this album. I think it's a fine album. Like, you don't really get much from it, in my opinion. Like, if you, I go through my phases where I really crave like trad, metal, doom, whatever. Like, I just go through those phases all the time. And this is an album I'd probably listen to through that phase. I think if you're in the mood for it, it's really good. Um, it's short and there's not much of substance. Like when I've listened to this album twice, recent for this, and I still really didn't grasp much from it. That I walked away and was like, man, that was really cool, or had a riff stuck in my head, or any kind of melody or anything, and I don't know, like it's just kind of, I don't want to say mediocre, but it's just like not the most special album I've ever listened to. So it's just kind of like another weird limbo. I would place it like low B, high C personally. I like the vocalist. I can say that though, but that's where I'd rank it. It's like mid.
Okay, so today I learned that I love generic doom. I really like the vocalist. I think he fits the album great. I love his highs. I would put this album in A tier, honestly. I love this album. Where Darkness is Light is a great starter song to before bringing you into the rest of the album. Like Aaron said, the riff is kind of generic. I do have to agree with that, but it's a good riff nonetheless. Like I'm not, like it's fine. I really love the ballad, "The Smoke-Filled Room." Um, I don't know. I really like that ballad. All the other songs kind of get mixed up for me. Like they all kind of sound the same to me, but are different in their own ways. And even though I feel that about their songs on this album, I still really enjoy the album. I enjoy the production, the vocals. I enjoy it front and back. I enjoy the riffs, even if they don't provide much substance. It's still songs that I like to go back to here and there. So I'd put this album in A tier.
All right. Well, to even it out, we'd probably put it in mid B tier because I probably put it very last, and Maz would put it here the lowest. So, I'm thinking here's fine
Yes.
enough. Man, when are we gonna get some Death Doom, bro? Come on now.
Yeah.
And let's.
I have some opinions.
Yeah. I have opinions too. Let's grab something.
Where's an album I
Oh,
want to glaze?
baller.
Oh, hey, there we go.
We got Mr. Pedophile Clown.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. This is When the Kite String Pops by Acid Bath, and I wrote a fucking documentary for this one.
I would like, hold on, real quick. I'd like to mention, if anyone ever comments about Acid Bath not being Doom, I'm looking at their Metal Archives page right now, and they're listed as sludge/Doom metal. So there you go, boom, liberal.
Yeah, so suck on that. Alright, so this is my opinion on When the Kite String Pops by Acid Bath. So, I think this album has one of the best guitar tones I've ever heard. The Blue is just a banger of an opener. I just love that straight doomy riff. Just riffs galore. One of the riffs on here remind me of, one of the riffs in The Blue remind me of the, I think it's the second riff after the main riff on Ride the Lightning by Metallica. Tranquilized has a baller riff, and I love how fast it goes, and it goes fast and it just slows down. I just love it. The bass line and finger paintings of the Insane is just incredible. It sounds like a theme of someone just straight up losing their mind. People speculate. People also kind of speculate that this song is about the clown on the cover. Um, from the lyrics. Jezebel is Astabath having their death metal influence on full display because soon as you click play on that track, you're fucking blasted away. And I also know that they were big Incantation fans, so this that kind of makes sense. Fucking awesome fast galloping riffs in that song. Scream Like a Butterfly also has a baller bass line. Just beautiful track overall, catchy as well. Despite the morbid lyrics, because I did read the lyrics, and good Lord Dax. Um, this Dr. Seuss is Dead is also heavy as hell. Just like the album, like the songs before this were like in A standard. They just tuned down for Dr. Seuss is Dead. It's just so just. Mm. Dope Fiend is another song where they just wear their death metal influence on their sleeve. And this is kind of a I think this is a warm take. I think Tobabu Tobabu Komi and God Machine could have been scraped and probably stuffed into their next album. They're good, but compared to everything else, I think they're some of my least favorites off of this album. The Mortician's Flame has a just fun as fuck riff. What color? What color? What color is death is cool again with like the death metal influence. Bones of Baby Dolls. I people who know me don't really need an explanation, but this is like a top 3 or top 2 from this album for me because I just love Dax's work on this. I love his lyrics. I love the melodies he comes up with. I love the guitar, especially the fucking guitar riff at the very end. Dun, 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 dun. Like like this song in particular, I looked into the lyrics a little bit more, and it's supposedly about a dude watching little girls play from like a distance at a playground, and he ends up killing them and burning them. And the fucking metaphors in this song are so like um they're so clever. Like I would not think of making a metaphor the bottle glass scraping across the pavement. Supposedly that's their bones like scraping across the pavement. Like the girl's broken because they're dead. Like it's just phenomenal. Like Dax is a hell of a fucking lyricist. Um, Cassie Eats Cockroaches it kind of reminds me of Fear Factory because of like the simple riffs and like the industrial samples used. Overall, I think the middle of the album is a little weak compared to the start and the end. But overall, I this is a great sludge album. I am very uh, timid to call this my favorite sludge album because Sonic Excess exists. But this is an awesome album. This is a definite S tier for me. That's all I have.
So, ironic you mentioned those two albums because Sonic Excess is without a doubt my favorite Sludge album, and this one is my without a doubt my second favorite. Anyway, I fucking love this album. The Blue is awesome. Tranquilized is one of the catchiest songs ever. Just straight up, like that chorus is so good. Finger Paintings of the Insane has the coolest ass synth part. And I think is it the only time they use synths in this album? I don't know, but like
I think it might be.
it might be, but like it just like comes out of nowhere and it feels so good to listen. Like it's like just scratches an itch. I don't know. Um you don't usually like imagine like synths in sludge metal, but those are really good. Jezebel, of course, like that riff is just hammering. Like that riff is insane. Scream of the Butterfly is one of my favorite, um, I guess slower paced songs that like a sludge band has done. Um, from Dr. Seuss is Dead all the way to like Mortician's Flame, I agree is maybe like the weakest run um in the album in terms of like overall quality. I still love each individual song, but it feels like a little bit to get through. Cassie Eats Cockroaches was a song when I first heard it, kind of makes me uncomfortable. Like the sound, like it's such a grimy ass song. The lyrics are so like fucked up. Like the lyrics are just the lyrics are just something else. And like the samples is just I don't know. Like the song just like it still like to say freaks me out in like the best way possible. It's such a good closer. Um something I love about this album is like you mentioned the guitar tone is phenomenal. It's crunchy, it's heavy, it's clean, it's heavy as hell. Just everything about it is so good. The vocals are one of the best in Sludge. Like his clean vocals are so good, and then you mix that with the fact that his harshes is they like his harshes still sound good, but there are times in this album. I think specifically in What Color Is Death and Dr. Seuss's Dead. There are moments where he hits like he like does this shit with his voice, and he genuinely just sounds unhinged. He sounds insane, and I love that because it matches just the just insane feeling this album is. That's the vibe this album is. It just feels unhinged, and I love that. Um, it's one of my favorite album covers of all time. The fact that they use the fucking painting of John Wayne Gacy as Pogo the Clown that he himself made it while in prison is fucked up, and I love that. Like it's legitimately just like kind of fucked, like straight up. um, but that adds so much like depth and vibe to the album that it's just it's I don't know. It's so good. It's an S for me personally.
I would also put this album in S tier, although I don't have as much to say as I thought I did. I do want to say that again, like Matt said, I think I love the album cover personally. I think it's iconic. I think no other album cover would have fit better than this one. As for songs, I love all the songs, but the ones that stand out to me the most is Jezebel. For obvious reasons, I love Jezebel. I love the starting riff. Just that whole song is brilliant. Scream of the Butterfly, I love. I love their acoustics. I love his vocals on here. I love his vocals throughout the album. Which speaking of, I love. I don't know if this is just how he sounds or like he has an effect on his vocals that
Yeah,
I really
I
love.
was gonna bring that up. I really enjoy the distortion that they put on his vocals.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
The distortion is so good.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of Alice in Chains for some reason.
I see it.
Yeah, it reminds me of Lame a bit. But yeah, his vocals are amazing, especially with the little effect to it. And then The Bones of Baby Dolls is another beautiful acoustic, more softer side of this album that I appreciate. And then as for like the heavier songs, other than Jezebel, I really love Tobabo Kumi. And I have this weird attachment to this song because I've watched the music video like 3 billion times for that song. And that song reminds me because my parents used to take us to Louisiana all the time when I was younger. And Louisiana is just basically swamp, and the music video is just swamp. And this song reminds me of just spending time in Louisiana at casinos and stuff. So it has a little special place in my heart. I also love the slower parts in the middle of Tobabo Kumi as well. The guitar tone is really chunky. It's really crispy. But yeah, otherwise, oh yeah, and the lyrics, like Aaron said, are amazing. The metaphors that he's done in Cassie Eats Cockroaches, I think is awesome. Dr. Seuss is Dead, you know, all that. I would put this album in S tier.
Yeah, the softer songs are definitely soft instrumentally, but the lyrics are not soft.
Nah, dude, some of these lyrics are so fucking fucked up,
I
dude.
know.
Like, I like I said when I said I like get uncomfortable with Cassie Eats Cockroaches. He's like towing the line with the symbolism, and even the symbolism kind of makes me like squirm a little. Like that shit is just gross.
Yeah, in Jezebel, he says, if I took a cigarette and put it out on you, would you still love me?
Yeah, that's the first line,
Yeah. I'm
and then like
dude.
it devolves like fucking talking about like chopping off like her fingers and shit. Like I don't know. Oh,
Okay,
dude,
so I can't
love it.
take it anymore. So we're doing aspects right now.
Yes.
So let me just because we literally have not done a single death metal one yet. So, um, let's see. Okay, so, oh my lord, oh my lord. Okay, so this album crushes. This is one of my favorite Death Doom albums. Period. Like MS Bismarck is a banger in its own right, and the main riff is just catchy. Like just out of the gate, that riff. Holy shit. The Crusher. I can't put in the words how fucking heavy that song is, and like the riff is not complicated. It's not. It's just so simple. It is just so fucking good. It is one of the heaviest songs I have ever heard in my life. That riff is just so skull crushing. It's just one of my favorite death doom death metal songs. Period. Just so goddamn good. Um, I think the best part in Serenade and Land is when Martin screams, end their bullshit, the diplomacy, and then like a real very very big fat fucking groove kicks in.
I'm looking at the
The main
lyrics
riff
right
for the
now.
title
Yeah.
track is honestly on par with the main riff for the Crusher, just so fucking good, and it's also catchy too. The outro solo of the title track is just the outro period of that song is so it's great. It's great. Incarnation of Lust is good, but also probably my least favorite off the album. Streams of Ancient Wisdom has some very cool moments like the offbeat syncopation with the guitars and drums, and the transition into the riff under the solo with a very heavy palm muting. Food of the Ignorant has a super heavy part with some weird like synth whatever noise that gets louder and louder. It's the best part of the song too. Um, despite that this is one of my favorites, one of my favorite albums and death doom albums or just doom albums in general. It's a shame that this album kind of suffers from the mix because it is mixed very in like with the high frequencies and shit. Because if you're not wearing good headphones, your ears might hurt. Because I don't know what they were thinking with because like the guitars are hissy. I normally hate hissy, but the riffs and the songs on this album are just so redeeming. I just don't care. I just don't care. And I've pretty much grown deaf to like the hissiness to this album unless I'm trying to learn a song from it. I'm like, wow, this mix kind of sucks. And I'm gonna pull something that Maz said in like earlier, like not in the call, but like in the text. Martin sounds like a dead corpse when he's singing, and it is appropriate because of the album cover. Um, yeah, I love this album. It's a strong S tier.
What I was saying is I was like going off what you said is like uh the vocals actually doing sound almost exactly like the dude on the album cover, and I think that's awesome. Um, it's like one of my favorite parts about it. MS Bismarck is one of the coolest openers, just in general, ever. That riff is awesome. The song is awesome. Like it's just a great death metal song. Um, the Crusher. You already mentioned it's like one of the heaviest riffs ever, but like god fucking damn, dude, like that that is one of the few songs where the name actually describes what the riff sounds like.
True.
Just straight up, like that is an insane riff. Um, that's the title track is just about on par with like those are my two favorite songs in the album. Easy is the Crusher and title track. Um, I agree with you about like the production. Like sometimes if I'm not wearing like my headphones and I have like my AirPods in or something like that, it kind of hurts to listen to. I can't really listen to the whole thing in one sitting. Um, which is a little bit of a shame. The guitar is like my only real production issue. Um, but the riffs just make up for it. Like if I'm ever in the mood for this album, it's just so good. Like I can't really say much about it that like you didn't say. Um, so I'm just gonna say S tier. Like not only one of the best Death Doom albums, it's one of the best like classic death metal records in general.
Again, don't have too much to say, but I will put this album in S tier. I think overall the fact that y'all said that the album cover, the guy sounds like, or the vocals sound like it's coming from the dude on the album cover. I've never made that analogy before, and I can see it now, and that's what I'll remember now every time I listen to this album. So, I love how chonky, how, for lack of better words, I love the guitar tone throughout this whole album. It's amazing. I love how dirty and how just deep it sounds, which is a reason why I like to come back to this album, to some songs. My favorite song, unsurprisingly, is probably The Crusher. Like y'all mentioned, ugh, it's so heavy, and so Asphyx is coming to Maryland's Asphyx next year, and I hope to God that they play this song live, The Crusher. That would be amazing. It'd be amazing if they play this whole album live. Okay, and then MS Bismarck is one of the best openers ever. That introduces you to like how heavy and how great the rest of the album is. I honestly have no complaints. Um, yeah, I put this album in S tier.
Okay, cool. We're just fucking settling it there.
We got two. We got true doomers in chat when the S tier is the biggest tier.
Yeah, we if you guys haven't noticed, there is no funeral doom in here, and it's because it's not the first genre that comes to mind when I think
I
of
should have
doom.
put Evoken on here. This is what happens when you have 3 people pick the albums.
Yeah.
Or Warning.
True. All right. Next up, we got Monica
Oh,
bands.
hell yeah.
Let's go. I do like the production on here. Death Row has some pretty great riffs to start. Sign of the Wolf is a fat banger, which has great riffs, and also the chorus is catchy as well. Relentless is a pretty fun jam. I'm not sure what cowbell type instrument is not sure what not sure what cowbell type instrument in Sinister is, but it is kind of funny. Dying World is also a banger, where the highlight for me is the lead work, which are creating these awesome melodies. Good album overall. Consistent with banging riffs, and I think Bobby J does a good job of his vocals, despite probably being on crack while recording this. A tier for me. That's all I have.
Pentagram is one of my favorite 80s Prad Doom. I love them so much. Death Row, Ireson, Sign of the Wolf, The Goal, and title track. Those first 5 are so good. Maybe some of my favorites. I'm Lost You're Free is such a classic 80s song. Like it almost feels like something from like 70s that was just translated over into like 80s metal. It's really cool. I like some of the riffs. Sketch. I like all of the riffs, and I love the vocals. I think the riffs and the vocals just pair so well together, and they're just like made for this band. Like when I think Pentagram's just kind of like I don't know, they're a whole vibe. I don't know how to put it. Like they're just a whole vibe, and those two elements absolutely encapsulate exactly what they are, and like they're just at face value what you get, and I think that's cool. Like they're just a no bullshit '80s trad, and I love that a lot. Like there's just nothing bad about this album, in my opinion, other than like maybe I don't love like a lot of the riffs a lot, or some of the songs are like kind of mid, but I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. Um, I'll give it like a solid A tier. Um, a fun fact though is that the song, the closing track, $20 Spin, was the name inspiration for $20 Spin Records.
Yeah, I
And I
that's
think
what
that's
I figured.
cool.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So solid A tier. I really like it.
I think I'd also put this album in A tier. Also, thank you, Mast, for all the fun facts. We really need those.
That sounded really
So-
sarcastic.
No, I actually mean it. So, I love the first thing that I really love about this album is the tone of the guitars. I keep saying that I love guitar tones and stuff, but it's one of the main things I look forward to in albums besides riffs is guitar tones. So I love how sinister they sound, which, speaking of sinister, is probably the song where the riff sounds the most sinister in. If that makes sense, it just sounds so like, I don't know, it sounds so grim. It sounds like it's pulling at you to like, hey, come do some drugs with me. That's kind of what that song sounds like to me. And then I love Bobby's vocals on here as well. $20 Spin is an amazing song. I especially love the little solo towards the end of it. Relentless is an iconic song. It's probably the most uplifting one off the whole album. Death Row is another great song. And then I love how, I forget if this was made in like the late 70s, early 80s, probably early 80s. But I love how you can hear like what era this was made. But yeah, otherwise I'd put this album in A tier. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think in front of Count
Actually,
Basie,
now that you mention it, the whole album kind of sounds like "Hey, come do some drugs with me." Like
I mean,
this is the most,
Yeah.
this is the most like heroin sounding album I think I've ever listened to.
literally.
you could tell because Bobby's cracked out of his mind in fucking live videos. All right, next album we got is another. Okay, we're actually picking the fucking Death Doom stuff. Okay, this is Lost Paradise by Paradise Lost.
Before you talk about that album, I actually haven't listened to it, so I won't speak on it.
Okay. All right, so if I remember correctly, the first time I've ever heard this, I thought it was like, meh, it's all right. But here are my notes after my second listen through it. Deadly Inner Sense is a pretty great start to this album with the slow melodic riffs, and the riffs on here kind of remind me of Autopsy, funny enough. The self-titled track Paradise Lost is a banger as well. The album isn't one tempoed, as you can see in Our Savior and Breeding Fear. My question for Rotting Misery is, why is the bell so loud in the beginning? Frozen Illusion just feels like the end of the world, the song. The title track is an interlude, which I don't know why they made the title track an interlude when they should have made it like a full-fledged song. Internal Torment 2 is a pretty solid closer. Overall, this album did grow on me the second listen through. I'd give it a solid A tier because I don't have many issues with it. It's just that some of the riffs don't hit hard for me. And compared to the, actually, I'm not gonna spoil that yet. Yeah, I think this is a solid A tier. This definitely grew on me.
I agree. I think it's also like super solid. What I like about it is it's short and like to the point. Like you just get a solid death metal album that's also doomy, and I think that's what's good about it. Is it's short, to the point. It doesn't really waste your time. Like you get some good riffs, you get some great vocals, and that's pretty much all it is. Like it's just an overall solid product that you can recommend to someone getting into like the death doom genre.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd call it like a just straight A tier. Really good.
Yeah, I do have to mention I do like Gothic more than this album. I do like.
I actually haven't listened to Gothic. I think this is the only Death Doom era Paradise Lost album I've listened to.
Oh, Gothic is pretty great, honestly. So
I'll have to check it out.
you should definitely listen to that.
Yeah.
All right, next album we get. Actually, let's just do a circle right here where the fucking three, and we get, Solitude. Cool. So this is Beyond the Crimson Horizon by Solitude Eternus. Just straight out of the gate, I know for both of you, this is not your favorite. However, this is my personal favorite by them because I feel like it is the most consistent track wise. Like here is me going through some of the tracks. Like Seeds of the Desolate is just a straight up sick opener. Like the chorus, the seeds of the desolate, just that part, fucking awesome. I think it's the song where it's not afraid to go fast either. It's really not. From like the clean intro to the faster riff during the verses and choruses, banger. Black Castle's just my favorite song by them, period. Heavy as hell, atmospheric, the chorus, just everything is perfect. The Final Sins chorus is great too. The riffs in It Came Upon One Night, I just cannot begin to describe. Just unreal. The Hourglass is just another fat banger. Beneath the Fading Sun just has this just sick chord progression where is it Rob? Is his name Rob Lowe? Is that his name?
The singer is
the singer. Yeah, that's who I'm talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah, his name is I can't.
I think it's whatever. Just his like majestic vocals as that like chord progression comes in is just fucking awesome. Plague of the Procreation might be my least favorite off of here, but it's still really good.
His name is Robert Lowe.
Okay, that's what I thought. Beyond works really well as a closer. Like the bells are a really good addition. Just like as soon as the album comes to a close, it's like your pending doom is coming. The production is just fantastic. Beefy guitars, beefy drums, great vocal performance. Definitely a classic in my eyes for Epic Doom. And this album, this came out in '93, I think. You could really tell that they're from Texas because they were in close proximity with Pantera, and it really does show on this album. And I do have to say something that is not related to this album, but the guitarist in Spirit Adrift can go fuck themselves because he jerks this band off, but then go and says like, oh, if you made a bedroom album, like not in an actual studio, then it's not an actual album. Then like, fuck you, just fuck you. But that's all I have to say about it. This album is a banger. It's straight to S tier.
Okay, I know you think it's not my favorite, and you're right, but it's like a 1 point difference. Like if my favorite by them is like a 99, this is a 98. Like this album is so good. Seeds of the Desolate has one of my favorite vocal parts. Like the vocalist, first of all, the vocalist is just incredible. And Seeds of the Desolate really highlights how incredible he is. He has such a good range, such a good melody, such a good tone that really sets the atmosphere for the feeling that you get in this album. I really like the part when it's like right after the chorus and then he like starts a verse like it's in like the final like verse of the song. He says he hits like he like says I, and then he has like super strong like way he does it, and it reminds me a lot of like Ronnie James Dio, and I love that. Um, it came up on one night is like half a doom song and then half just like a straight trad banger. Like this song speeds up out of nowhere, like you just don't expect it, and then it just goes off. It's so good. Plague of the Procreation is maybe my favorite. I don't know. That song is fucking incredible. But I don't have much I can say that you haven't said, except that maybe this is like other than like Candlemass's first two albums, this is like the de facto Epic Doom album that everyone should listen to. Like definitely top three. But yeah, it's straight to S tier for me.
This album is S tier, and I think I'm gonna be super biased because Solitude Eternus is, I want to say now, one of my top 5 bands of all time, and I just love the sound of. Again, I'm being biased here. I don't care, but I love the sound of southern, like Texas metal. I just love the little twang that it has to it that it adds to metal. I just love that so much. And like Aaron said, these albums came out around the time that Pantera was going crazy. And you can definitely hear the Pantera influx in this album, which is something that I really love about this album and just Solitude Eternus in general. I love that so much about them. Rob Lowe's vocals, I'm not gonna lie, is probably my favorite vocalist of all time when it comes to just in general. He's my favorite vocalist. I love his high notes so much. I love how you can feel like it's coming from his heart, it's coming from his gut. And he mostly, in my opinion, expresses those higher pitched vocals in his other album. I can't believe I forgot what it's called. It's my favorite. It's off of Into the Depths of Sorrow. So, going back to this album, Black Castle or Seeds of the Desolate is probably the catchiest song off the album. I love the chorus so much. It just gets stuck in your head so easily. Black Castle, Aaron and I had the privilege of also seeing live at Hell's Heroes with Candlemass. It was amazing. Oh my goodness gracious. Whew. That was amazing. The Hourglass. So all songs in this album are great, but the ones that stand out to me are the two that I just mentioned, Seeds of the Desolate, Black Castle. The Hourglass is also great, and then Plague of Procreation is amazing. The drums, just I don't have any complaints with this album. The drums are amazing, production, guitars. I love the guitars. They're probably one of my favorite parts other than vocals. And I think it's Maz that mentioned how you can be at a very slow point in the album or in the song, and then out of nowhere they just throw you like this fast-paced riff, like, hey, you gotta catch up with me now, or else you'll be left behind. I love that so much about Solitude Eternus. But yeah, overall, I'd give this album an S tier, and although it's not my favorite, it's definitely like an album that I would recommend anyone to listen to. It's amazing.
So, what would be your favorite Maz? I don't think you ever told me.
My favorite is Through the Darkest Hour.
Oh, okay. Well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna wait. I'm just gonna circle where these fucking like this box right here until it's all one line. So we're gonna get cool. You are.
Oh, the St. Vitus.
Yeah, this is Saint Vitus.
Is it self-titled? I don't reckon.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't realize how much trad I put in until now.
Okay. So, this is one of my two hot takes out of this entire video. This album as a whole is mid. It is mid. It is mid. And the main reason is because of the production. The guitars sound like if mufflers were a guitar tone. The riffs for the most part are lackluster. Zombie Hunger is okay. One of the riffs just don't make that much coherent sense at all. This album feels super fucking amateurish, like especially in the riff writing, and especially nothing really here grabbed me besides parts of Zombie Hunger, not and the burial at sea as a whole. Like parts of Zombie Hunger were good. Burial at Sea was good as a whole. The vocalists did a great job, but man, the instrumentals are just so they are just so amateurish. It just feels like you gave guitars to 15-year-olds and you're like, here, make a trad doom album. I don't know. I did not really. I had a hard time sitting through this. This was not really great at all. So this is my. I By the way, I only have one C tier, and this is my only C tier, and that's all I have.
I think this album is not good. Just straight up.
Oh,
White Magic, Black Magic is the only song on this album I actively enjoyed when listening to it. The biggest highlight is that it's short. um, I, I don't know. The tone does nothing for me. The riffs sound cluttered, which is really weird to say. Like it overall just sounds like a cluttered ass album with kind of mid vocals. I wouldn't feel as strongly about it if this wasn't considered like one of the big trad doom albums. This is like Saint Vitus' Glaze to Hell, and I never got them. Um, it's just I don't know, man. Like I can't find much about anything else. I can remember parts of Zombie Hunger, but I listened to this album 3 fucking times trying to like it, and the only song I ever found captivating was White Magic, Black Magic, and everything else I couldn't tell you a single like. I can't recall a single riff from this album, and that's just like not what I want for my doom album. I don't like it. I would give this like a D tier, just straight up. I do not like this album.
wow. Okay.
I'm sorry, Monica.
Hey, no, you're good.
I really kind of like shout out all your picks.
You're good. See, this is a good thing why I joined. I almost didn't join because then where would y'all wouldn't have any C or D tier albums because of me. Anyways, I will say that this album is overrated. Even though I do enjoy this album, it is overrated. I personally really like the guitar tone. I don't know what it is with me and shitty production, maybe because black metal is my favorite genre. But I love the production, or not the production, the guitar tones at least in this album. The Psychopath, Zombie Hunger, and Saint Vitus are my top songs, and then White Magic, Black Magic used to be my favorite, and I've listened to it so much to the point where it's kind of watered down now. And then speaking of water, Burial at Sea is also, it's a good song, but it's not like the highest one for me. I do really like the vocals a lot. This album is nostalgic to me for reasons I've mentioned before. Especially Zombie Hunger. I really like Zombie Hunger. Overall, I like the atmosphere that this album makes me feel. It feels dark. It just feels like, I don't know, it just feels dark. And I do agree with Aaron that it sounds like a muffler or whatever he said. But it's like the cute characteristic of the album. It has its own little quirk, and it just happens to be a funny, silly guitar tone. So I would put this album in A tier, honestly.
Yeah, sorry, we're gonna have to sacrifice here because we need a C tier.
You're funny.
Like, I would 100% listen to the Obsessed over this. Like,
Yo,
Okay,
dude,
yeah.
that's not even the album I like the least on this list.
Oh wow.
I will save that
scared.
for when we get to
oh,
it. But
I already have a
I have
feel. I
some
already have a
harsh words to
feeling.
say.
Yeah, I already have a feeling. So let's.
We haven't reached the peak and we haven't reached the depths yet for my
Yeah.
hot takes.
Yeah. Oh damn. And let's go. Oh, holy shit! You were talking about hot takes. Let's go. So this is the Turn the Swans Loose by My Dying Bride. So this is deemed as their best album by a lot of people. I truly don't see it. I truly don't see it. This was my, because Maz recommended me this album. The I've never heard My Dying Bride before, and I listened to it. There were a couple tracks here that I'm like, okay, yeah, these are good, but for the most part, it was more of a slog to get through. But that was my first impression. This is what I had written down when I was going back and listening to it in full. Shear Me 1993 is an intro track, but why the fuck does it have to be 7 minutes? Just why? Your River has grown on me riff-wise. The intro drags on forever. I do wish Aaron used some growls like in that track, because I feel like it would have been more powerful and more impactful. The Songless Bird is fine. Decent riffs. The Snow in the Hand is still a great song in my opinion. Bringing back some song, that song in particular brings back some songwriting from the debut. The Crown of Sympathy is a good track. It would be better if the long part with the chimes and bass drum wasn't so fucking drawn out. One of the riffs remind me of the riff from Dark Caress, an album 3 years later. Which is, yeah. The title track is fucking baller, heavy as hell. The growls add a lot of atmosphere. I wish this album was a lot more like this. Black God is straight up a filler track. There is literally nothing to be listening to here. Just violin, spoken word, piano, and a woman singing low in the mix. Straight filler track. And I think, okay, this album is good, but where it's put in high regard regarding like fans of this band, fans of Death Doom, fans of Gothic Doom, fans of Doom in general, I do not believe it deserves to be put at a high pedestal that it is at. That being said, though, this is a high B tier for me. It has very strong moments. However, it is drawn the fuck out a lot of sections. Even songs that I would deem are good, they have either a very long outro that doesn't need to be there, or just like Shear Me 1993 does not need to be 7 minutes. It could be cut down to like 4.
I used to really like this album and I used to really like this band, and then I agreed. I'm just gonna start with a positive real quick. I think the title track is awesome as fuck. Maybe one of the coolest like Death Doom songs I've heard. And definitely like a highlight in like the My Dying Bride catalog. Overall, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like this band a lot. I really like their early work. But I think this album is mid. I really don't think it's a fun thing to listen to front to back in one sitting. I think a few tracks here and there are alright, but to listen to this album front to back, there's not really much of an atmosphere to get lost in. There's not much of like an overall emotion you're feeling. throughout it, other than maybe in like a few tracks. Um, in like a few sections, like I don't know, it just feels kind of. It kind of just feels like a bunch of snooze or material. Like I don't even remember half of these tracks and like the months, and I just listened to this album like 2 days ago. I agree, Black God is fucking awful. Just straight up, I don't like it. And the fact that it's like the last track on the album, just I don't know, it leaves like a bad taste in your mouth. I don't really like it. I'd give this like a C tier because I think the album's alright. It's just not. I kind of had like high regards towards it, and I lost it upon listening to this album again for like the 2 times I had to in preparation for this. So I'd give it like a C tier at best, or not at best, but like at worst, it's like a low C tier, and like at best, like a low B tier. I overall C tier is my opinion on it.
I first listened to this album a few hours ago, so my memory's still fresh, well, somewhat fresh on it. I honestly didn't think this album was as kind of bad as y'all are saying. I would say that this is like an A or B tier, in my opinion. Um, I feel like this album is diverse. It brings a lot of elements to it that I really like, such as violins, which I really love about My Dying Bride. They're not shy about introducing violins to their songs to add more of a depth to their music. I also loved the additions of trumpets. I forget what song it was in, but they added trumpets, which was a nice surprise. Um, I also loved the echoey, loud sound of the drums or the drum effect, whatever you want to call it. I love the I guess, death metal influence in The Snow in My Hand, followed by their iconic slow and heavy riffs. The Crown of Sympathy has such a dirty riff that just makes you want to headbang all night. And then Transcending reminded me a lot of industrial, and I love the melody of the violin in the last track of the album as well. So overall, I think this album is pretty good. I do agree that it does drag on quite a bit because when I first saw how long this album is, I was like, ooh. And it did, like, there are albums like Woods of You Pray that we covered earlier where it does not feel like it's an hour long. It feels like it just goes by in 2 seconds. But with this album, it just drags on a bit at some point. So yeah, I'd stick it in A or B tier.
I would just like to let you know, Monica, that the actual album ends with Black God. Trans whatever transaction or whatever, the one that started with a T. Yeah, that song blows chunks. I fucking hate that song. That is
Wow.
garbage, dude. Like that, I think those are bonus tracks on the Spotify thing. That song is fucking.
Well,
As an industrial fan, that song is
Yeah,
garbage. It is
they do have
garbage.
they do have a really good bonus track I like, and that's Your Shameful Heaven. I think that one's really good. It's like all
Yeah.
clean sing, but I really like the like synth melody. But like judging it not as a bonus track, yes, like the main album's meh, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But
So
I wouldn't care wherever
yeah,
you put it.
yeah. So the main album ends with Black God. I just have to say transition or whatever the fucking whatever. It is garbage.
that song came as a surprise to me when I was
My
listening
distaste for that
to
song
it.
is strong. That like I could not. It was hard to stomach that song. But anyway, let's move on because we have more albums to get to. And next we got. Hell yeah, we got
Oh
Catatonia.
my god.
Alright, so this is Brave Murder Day by Catatonia. And if you didn't know, if you're an Opeth fan, you should definitely listen to this because Michael Ackerfeld is on this one. So, out of the gate, I just want to say, this is not my favorite by them. This is not my favorite Death Doom album by them. My favorite is Dance of December Souls. That being said, though, this is still a great album. I think the Brave Murder Day series of songs are great. I love like the chord progression in Brave. And it has a beautiful solo and lead melodies. Michael does a great job on that track. Just to skip the day is just so beautiful, and it's like walking on a trail with sparkling like Christmas lights hanging down. It just feel it like the guitars just feel like sounds glittery, and in this very like uh, what's the word? Very just very sad like tone. Um, I just just a banger of a song. Rain Room has some of the best dual guitar melodies in the entire album. Like the very beginning of the song, the first verses where Michael screams is just peak. The part where the clean vocals come in is also peak. 12 is also peak as well. Sick riff around the 2 minute and 30 mark in this song. And 12 is where you could really hear the HM2 in the guitar tone. Because I know like it's not pure HM2 because you can obviously hear that, but you could obviously hear like that HM2 crunch in like 12. Um, Also, 12 might also have the best lead part in the entire song in the second half of the song. End Time, just, man, this album is just really jam packed with just great lead work. Nowhere has a great drive, and while it is simple, I love the lead on this as well. One of the riffs in Inside the Fall sounds like he's going to play Iron Man, but pulls out real quickly, like, oh, I pulled a fucking quick one on you. The production is kind of funny. I think the snare drum kind of sounds like a paint can. Pretty weak sounding drums. It feels like, hey, let's make one of the best Death Dude albums, but you know, like that Fisher Price, fucking like drum kit over there. Play it on that, because that's what it kind of sounds like to me. The bass drum also feels kind of clicky. It very comes apparent when when the double bass they is played. The drums overall feel small. The guitar tone is a mix of something and an HM2, and I do like how controlled the tone is. Overall, I, I I want this album on vinyl, so that tells you how much I like it. Me personally, I think it has some flaws, but it is still like a very good album. I think this is one of Michael's best vocal performances, um, like in this era as well. Which I think this came out in '93, maybe. Um,
Came out in '96.
96. Oh damn! Well, I was way off. Um, Anyway, yeah, I love this album. However, this would be a probably a light S tier for me, in terms of like all these Doom albums that we have, especially in the S tier. It's a light S tier for me. But otherwise, yeah, great album.
Um, I would just like start off. I think this album cover is cool as all shit. Like,
True.
it's not often like I kind of put this in the same category as like Leprosy by Death, where you don't really see like that color often, so it's like just instantly recognizable. I didn't know it was a dead bird for like the longest time. I was like, what the fuck is that? The music, I love this album. Like, how to describe the atmosphere of this album is kind of like sitting. Like, I feel like how I could describe this is the only album I could describe like this. Okay, no, there's like two albums I could describe this, but this album would go crazy if you were in like a sensory deprivation chamber. Like, this album just feels like the void. Like, just straight up, like everything about it. It's echoey. It's dark. It's got incredible vocal performances. I love the way that the riffs build up and they just sit with you. Like, you have to like you just sit with that riff, and that riff gets in your head, and it persists throughout the whole song. Um, One of my favorite aspects that they do across like I don't know if it's every track, but it's consistent throughout the album where they'll do like the distorted riff, and then they'll play um a clean section on the guitar, and they'll play this beautiful clean riff while the drums are still going like full tempo that they were before. So it's like the the song's not changing its pace, but the whole guitar section just changed. And it's so like captivating when you first hear it. Um, Day is straight up one of my favorite like Hill songs. Like it's hard not to compare it to like Opeth because like you know how like Opeth has like especially on their early work they'd have like that one track that was like super chill, like kind of like on My Arms You're Here. So there's like Credence. They kind of reminds me of Credence in the way that just the song feels cold and like dark. It's just, dude, I don't know. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Rain Room is one of my favorites. I love Rain Room. Uh, Overall, I agree with a lot of what you said. Although I personally kind of like how the drums sound. Um, that's just kind of a difference in taste, I guess. But I would definitely give this like a light S. Yeah, because compared to everything else in S tier, it's not like the peak of peak, but it's pretty fucking good if you're trying to get someone into Death Doom.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember many of the songs at all from this album. All I remember is that I enjoyed it. So just for that, I'd say A or B tier. The only song that I do remember though is Day, and I love that song. It reminds me of a crisp, cold day, and it's raining, and you're just driving out, and you want to kill yourself. That's what that song reminds me of.
Bro.
And no, okay.
Dude.
But
In a
yeah, it's beautiful.
complimentary, it makes you want to kill yourself, but it's a compliment.
Dude.
Well, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a beautiful song, and I love Michael's vocals on the whole album as well, especially Day. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. The guitar tone, yes, I love it, and the atmosphere of the album is amazing. I love how cold and just depressing it sounds. I would just put this album in A or B tier.
Alright, we're gonna put the end of this.
Sounds good.
Alright,
I mean, even like high A wouldn't be bad.
yeah, sure. We can do that.
Even if it's an A, it's like undisputably at the very top of the tier. It's like an A plus.
True. Alright, next album we get, and cool. We got
Oh yeah.
next Solitude Eternus in this tier list. This is Through the Darkness, Through the Darkest Hour by Solitude Eternus. With Falling, Falling in general, I could really tell, you could really tell where people come from when people say they have Pantera influence, because some of these grooves in that song just great chorus as well, and of course the riffs. Haunting the Obscure is also a fat banger. I wrote down Nile reference, and I'm gonna assume that's because the guitar parts are Middle Eastern toned. The clean guitar tone is pretty great on here. The Ninth Day Awakening, good lord, that low tuning and that tone is just, oh.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what instrument it is, but it really brings out the Middle Eastern feel in the middle of the song. Pain, the intro riff. Oh my god. My favorite song on the album, but I do have to say I really don't like how it just suddenly ends. Because if you listen to the song all the way through, it just suddenly ends for no reason. I don't know why. It sucks because I really love that song. Some of the doubling on the vocals on the album and the harmonized vocals that Rob does, they really, you talked about Alice in Change when we talked about Acid Bath. Right here is when I think of Alice in Chains, because of how Rob's vocals are they're doubled and they're harmonized, and it sounds like Lane. Perfect Insanity is a great example of Rob's vocals, and the mix on it. Overall, very strong album. Held by held back by a couple production issues and songwriting choices, which is why this is not my favorite. Um, but the songs on here are really really good, and there are high and the highs are very very high. Um, the lows are not really that low, but it's whatever. I think high A tier for me personally. That's all I have.
This is my favorite, Solitude. And I'm gonna explain why. I know I keep mentioning album covers, but this is the coolest album cover they've ever done, and by far the coolest fucking like epic. Like when you look at this, you don't think Epic Doom. And speaking of which, this is like the least epic Epic Doom album I think I've ever heard, and that's a compliment. Because if Crimson Horizons sounded like triumphant and epic and all of like just like all of the Epic Doom like cliches, this one is like dark. Like there are some moments in here, and like when I hear like a good Doom album, the very first thing that comes to my mind for like a good song is the fucking like holy shit, I have to kill myself right now. Like that's what I get from this album. Falling is such a good like set into like a set like opening track, just like set tone. It really gets you in the mood. um Eighth Day Morning and Ninth Day Awakening, um I love those two. They pair so well together and they feel just heavy as fuck. You said pain. When you said like when you mentioned pain, like I immediately go to that riff. That riff from Pain is one of the heaviest like Epic Doom
Mm-hmm.
songs ever. Like not only like that riff, and then like in the chorus when he says "feel the pain," the way he delivers that line is just so good. Like it's just powerful, and there's just so much like um to that song. It is such a highlight. Pawns of Anger is another one of my favorites. I think it's heavy as hell. I love the vocals. Um, Perfect Insanity is also really good. You kind of don't expect it because a lot of the production choices, like on the vocals specifically in this song, this is like the only like the intro to the song, the first verse. They have this weird effect on his voice that you don't expect, and it kind of took me a little bit to warm up to. I'll admit, but now I kind of like really enjoy it. It's a little bit weird, but when you mentioned like the Alice in Chains like double tracking, that's what I thought of was this song. The chorus of this song has like that Alice in Chains like I guess like kind of like a self-titled feel, like an Alice in Chains self-titled, and it's just I love it. Shattered My Spirit is awesome, one of my favorite closers. Uh, Overall, I'd say the atmosphere of this album, like this is just it's depressing as fuck, and it's hopeless and isolating, desolate, and all of the positive adjectives that you could give to a doom metal album. That I am unapologetically biased towards everything that this album puts at me, and it's my favorite Solitude. Like it's all of the best elements of Solitude plus more, and it's one of my favorites. I would just put it in S tier. That's enough glazing for me. I guess the only actually I will give a negative. The only negative I'll give is like um I think that sometimes a little bit of the riffs are mediocre, which can kind of break the immersion of like some of the longer tracks. Like some of the longer tracks have like some riffs that don't really hook me immediately, so I kind of like zone out. And that's like my one like small gripe, especially like Eternal Dreams Part 2. Um I just don't I honestly don't remember that track too well. Like I'd know it as soon as I heard it, but like that's one of the songs where like the riff doesn't like rip me in. And I guess what you said about like Pain like ending abruptly, those would be like my only super negatives. But overall, S tier album for me.
This album is also S tier for me. And Pawns of Anger is actually the song that I was introduced to but through well, let me reword that. Pawns of Anger, someone recommended me that song about 3, 4 years back. And I loved that song the second I heard it. I was like, "God damn." And for some reason, I was like, okay, that's enough. I won't dive deeper into this band. And so I ignored that song, and then 2 years later, well, a few years later, whatever, I came back to that song, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This album is amazing. It's probably my second favorite album by Solitude Eternus. Um, Haunting the Obscure. I love the chorus a lot. The Eighth Day Morning is great, and then the Ninth Day Awakening is my favorite from those two. Uh, Pain is probably my favorite song off the album. Just like y'all said, the introduction riff. Oh my goodness. It makes me so happy. Just every time I listen to that song, I feel happy listening to that riff because it makes me want to like break stuff. Okay. Uh, anyway, Pawns of Anger is amazing. That song goes hard. It has a chunky riff. Um, and then just like Maz says, Eternal is probably the least memorable song off the whole album. I don't know why. It's still a good song. It's not as like captivating as the rest. It doesn't have as many like dirty riffs and stuff as the other songs do. And then Perfect Insanity is great. And then the song Shattered My Spirit is a beautiful way to end such an amazing album that just takes you through like many hard like bangers and stuff. I love Shattered My Spirit. I love Rob Lowe's um vocals throughout the whole thing. Just overall best tier album. I love it so much.
Alright, sure. I'll put it right here.
Like, look, I'm gonna post the album cover in like the chat here. Just look at that shit. Is that not like the coolest album cover ever? Like,
True.
come on. I'm a sucker for like statues.
Oh no.
That's
I really, I
random.
really, I really like the color palette of Beyond the Crimson Horizon. So that's why I have a huge bias towards that one.
No, that one's cool.
Alright.
I like, yeah.
Next
Alright,
album
let's see.
we get is hell yeah.
Oh,
this
that
is
was
this is
yeah.
this is this is the Mandolin by the Gathering. And before I went to listen to the playlist for all these albums, I have never heard the Gathering. I have never heard this album before. I have heard the first album, which, gonna be honest, the first album, it's okay. It has some bangers on it, but it's just an okay Death Doom album. But this is not what this is. This is not a Death Doom album. So, man, that first track on this album is just so fucking good. Like, I wasn't expecting a woman vocalist either, and the riffs were just so sick. Eleanor just gives me an atmosphere that only like this Eleanor gives me an atmosphere that I only really get from a Garden of Shadows, which is a metal death band. Just like that very spacey atmosphere and that just grand. I just just love it. Leaves. I love how the vocalist sings in the Middle Eastern scale or whatever, and part of the chorus. And good lord, that solo. There is so much emotion put into these solos that I like. Like, if you know me, I care for riffs strictly, just strictly. But if a solo is like good enough to catch my attention, you know it's fucking good. Fear of the Sea has this very cool synth that kicks in about halfway through the song. The title track is a neat little interlude. I like the chord progression in Sand and Mercury. Might be my least favorite, but good. In Motion is fantastic as well. Overall, this album took me by surprise when I first heard it, and good lord, it was fucking good. Very little complaints from me. I do have to say though, if the vocalist was anyone but the vocalist that was singing on this one, like a dude or whatever, I probably would not have liked it as much because you have no idea how like oversaturated just the genre as a whole, like the gothic doom stuff, whatever, just oversaturated with like vocalists that kind of sound the same, but it was just so refreshing to hear like I don't know, a woman on this album, and it just sounded brand new to me because I'm so familiar with a specific sound that it just struck me like it just yeah. So I really enjoyed this album. I enjoyed it enough to put it in S tier, and that's all I have.
When I put the album on our list, it was kind of the curveball. I didn't expect you to like actually really like it as much as you did. Um, myself, I really like it. Personally, it's like a tier for me. I really like the guitar tone. I really love the singer, but I might have to listen to the song more, but or like some of the songs more, but like none of them left like too long of a lasting impression on me. Strange Machines is awesome as hell. One song that did like leave a really big impression on me though was Sand and Mercury. It's almost 10 minutes long, and it's mostly instrumental, but good lord, like it really lets the guitar tone and the production shine. And that's one of the strengths of the album is this album sounds incredible. For 1995, this album just sounds so good. Like it's just satisfying to listen to. And that's why I really like it. I do love the vocal. Like it's just good. Like there's nothing I can really like pick out to really highlight other than of course the vocalist. But like I just really like it, and that's all I can really say about it. It's like A tier for me.
So I just listened to this album a few hours ago. I don't know why I didn't write any notes at all. I guess I was busy cleaning or something. But this album is good. I thought it was a good album. I would stick it in either A or B tier. Um, like Aaron said, it was so nice to hear a change of I don't know, just a change. Like you're so used to hearing a bunch of depressed males who are heartbroken in this subgenre of metal, and then you get introduced this female who's also heartbroken and depressed, but she's a little bit more uplifting. So that was a nice change of pace. And then the first track I think is probably my favorite off the album. It was really good. I was like, wow, okay. Um I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't really remember much of the album at all. All I know is that it was good and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I would stick it in A or B tier. Oh, and her vocals were really good as well. I love them.
Okay, I'll stick it right behind Catatonia.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, next album we got is I grabbed this first. We're doing it.
Oh
Okay.
yes, dude.
So okay.
So much to
Oh.
say.
All right, this I want to before I say anything. This right here is my favorite Epic Doom album.
Mhm.
It is my favorite. So usually when an album is a first of its kind, there are usually better albums afterwards. However, in my opinion, that is not correct because this is personally my favorite, and I personally believe that this is the best Epic Doom album to ever exist. This is also just one of my favorite albums in general. Solitude is a brilliant, and I just love the main riff and the intro, dude. The fucking intro, holy shit. Just the vocal melodies and shit. Demon's Gate is a banger as well. Crystal Ball, it's my personal favorite up. It's my personal favorite up here. It's like Candlemass's Pain, like from Solitude, like that fucking crushing riff, like the verse riff. And dude, the solo on that song is so incredible. I'm legit like because the solo on Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne is my personal favorite solo of all time. It's honestly in competition with that solo because it's just so fucking good. Um, just a wow, just fucking awesome. I love when Johan does his highs; they just sound so good. Blackstone Wilder has one of the best riffs on the album. If you pay attention to the beginning of Under the Oak, when the second guitar comes in, it comes in a little off, like if you really pay attention, but that doesn't really affect anything. But it's just something that I want to point out cause like this is not related really, but I hate when like albums are like just like super like okay they have to be very perfect, they have to be perfect, but this album obviously they left that in, and I honestly find a charm in it. But I think one it has one of the best choruses in the song too, or in the album too. Sorcerer's Pledge has probably the third best riff on the album. The female vocalist at the end is just phenomenal too, just great closer. Overall, this is just like Wheel. This is a straight 10. There is no dull moment on here. A classic for a reason. Um, S tier.
Yeah, it's also a 10 out of 10 S tier for me, but I have more to say. I'm gonna go on my streak of mentioning album covers because a pitch black album that has a demon skull piercing, like with a cross piercing through it, is cool as fuck. Like, you gotta admit, like that's iconic. This album is so good they named the whole genre after it.
So true though.
Like, um, yeah. So, okay, I love Messiah, but Johan as a vocalist, I genuinely don't think this album would be the same with Messiah. Like, these songs Messiah does well, like when they play live, but these songs are just handcrafted for Johan. His performance is fucking phenomenal. That part in Solitude where he hits like a vocal note that matches the guitar is just unreal. Like, good lord, and just like I love okay. I love in Demon's Gate the intro where it does like like the synth with like the spoken word, and then it comes into this really awesome drum groove, and then a riff that follows it up that's even like it just builds up. Like there's just so much build up, and it's so much payoff. Every riff on this album is instantly memorable, instantly amazing. The drumming is captivating. Uh, it's never boring. It's never one note. The drumming always matches the riff in some way that just somehow all culminates together into super memorable and iconic sound. The atmosphere in this album, I don't know how to describe it because this album doesn't really have like a specific atmosphere, but you feel kind of like a presence in it. You know what I mean? Like it kind of feels almost like empty, but so full of life at the same time. Like everything you're hearing is just in a singular vacuum, and it's perfect. I just don't know how to describe it. Like it's so good. All like it's equal parts like the word I'm looking for is like dreadful. It's like equal parts dreadful as it is like epic. And I guess that's why it's called Epic Doom. Like there's just some moments on here like Solitude. Solitude as a song, just as a concept, is the most Doom song general. Like in general, period, Solitude is the embodiment of Doom metal, if you ask me. Like this is the de facto Doom metal. And then everything afterwards just is pure icing on the cake. It's genuinely like a perfect album in its genre, and I think it's S tier.
This album is S tier 11 out of 10 for me. like Maz said, I love the album cover. I think it's one of the most iconic album covers of all time. Even though it's simple, it brings such a meaning to so many people. Um, so right off the back, the first track is one of the most iconic songs in of all time, especially in doom metal. Um, the riffs throughout the album are dirty, they're heavy, and they stand out from one another. So like each song, I know exactly what each song is just based off the song title, and that is something so hard for me to like remember. I don't know why, but this album is one of the exceptions. Like I just look at the song title and go, "Oh, I know that song. I know what riff belongs to this song." For the longest time, embarrassingly, I always thought it was Messiah on vocals, but I found out like a year or two ago that's actually Johan. So his vocals are amazing here, and I forgot to mention this in the previous album, but Messiah, he's an amazing vocalist for just Doom in general. I love his vocals. But Johan's vocals are unique and they fit perfectly in this album. You can feel and hear his emotions in his songs. Um, Crystal Ball's riff goes so hard. I especially love the solo at minute 3:25. That's one of the reasons why I look forward to that song so much because of that solo, even though the riff is just as killer. Blackstone Wielder is amazing, and the riff style kind of reminds me of a silly, more upbeat Doom song. I used to not like Under the Oak for whatever reason, but I've grown to enjoy it a lot within the past couple of years. I don't understand how I didn't like that song still. I don't know why. It's amazing. The part where it starts with Johans yelling, "I cried for the ones I lost" is one of my favorite vocal performances of his off the album. The album ends off with The Sorcerer's Pledge, which has this doomy rush slash thrill to it. And I love the incorporation of the some synths here and there. And overall, I think this album is perfect. There's absolutely nothing bad at all to say, just nothing but S tier. I love it.
Okay, good thing that there's no debate there then. Anyway, all right, next album we got. Cool, we finally got a Black Sabbath album.
Holy shit.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, this is Born Again, by Black Sabbath. This is kind of a controversial pick, cause this album doesn't really have that big of a or that good of a reputation amongst Black Sabbath fans in general. But I'm here to say that this is definitely not as bad as people make it out to be. Trashed feels like more of an Iron Maiden ish song, especially with like the new vocalist. I forget the vocalist's name is
Ian Gillan,
Ian Gillan. Okay.
previously of Deep Purple.
Oh, that's neat. Um, I might get shit for this, but the synth on Trashed kind of reminds me of Sabaton. Um, this album is definitely odd if you compare it to 70s Sabbath, like the dissonant passages with the vocals over it, like in Disturbing the Priest, and dude is just laughing like a maniac at like a maniac at the end. Couldn't get that out. Great. Um, Zero the Hero's main riff is baller, and the chorus is great too. Digital Bitch is back right to the like Iron Maiden type song. Um, Digital Bitch is kind of, I read the lyrics. It kind of seems like he's singing about a gold digger. Um, the title track is honestly a great power ballad. I like it. Hotline is also a banger. This is where the vocalist really shows off what he has with all the highs. Keep It Warm is decent, but probably one of my least favorites. Overall, I think the production is a little off, and some of the songs don't really hit hard as they could. But I think this album is pretty solid. Um, I think besides Zero the Hero is just like super memorable to me. Not my personal favorite Sabbath. Um, I've only heard like 6 Sabbath albums anyway. But honestly, this is pretty good. I'd probably put this in B tier.
So this album has like this is like one of the most, I'd say, other than like Seventh Star among Sabbath fans, this is one of the more divisive ones. Just straight up, for a multitude of reasons. People don't like Ian Gillan. People don't like the production. People don't like the fact that it sounds that the songs are just the way they are. Personally, I really like Ian Gillan. I think he's awesome here. I think. So the production is something I want to tackle because the production is muddy and the guitar sounds slippery. I don't know how to describe it. The guitar is just slippery. Is like how the tone sounds. It's the best way I can describe it. I kind of like that because this album sounds abrasive as fuck. For like a 1983 trad metal album, this is pretty like heavy. I really like it, especially coming from Black Sabbath. This just doesn't sound like a Sabbath album, although it has like all the trademarks of Sabbath. Like there is still straight Iommi riffs in here. It sounds exactly like the album cover. Like the album cover is bright fucking like solid blue purple with the red, and it just looks so crazy, and it just matches the album, and I love that. Crashed is an awesome opener because it's like the ultimate drunk driving song. Like, it's so good. I love the solos. Like Iommi really like experimented. It doesn't like. It sounds like an Iommi solo. Like all of the guitar solos on here sound like Iommi, but they don't sound like him at the same time. He's really trying stuff, and I think that's awesome. Stonehenge into Disturbing the Priest is one of my favorites. I think Disturbing Priest is one of the coolest Sabbath songs ever. I love the lyrics. I love the riff. I love the bass line. The bass sounds muddy and grimy. It has some of my favorite Sabbath lyrics. I always loved like Black Sabbath lyrics. I love Iommi's writing, and I love the line. What was it? A devil and a priest can't exist if one goes away. That's such a cool line, to me, and I love the way it's delivered. And just like that song is just like those two together as like a coherent song is just one of my favorites. Zero the Hero is really fun. I love that song. It's even funnier listening to it knowing Cannibal Corpse covered it. Yeah, Chris Barnes covered Zero the Hero. Digital Bitch is really funny. The title track is probably my least favorite. Well, no, Keep It Warm is my least favorite. Title track isn't my favorite on the album. I think it's an okay song. I don't really like the vocal performance that was given on it, but I think the song is good. It's definitely like the Doom song. Overall, I think this album is way overhated, and it sounds awesome. It's a pleasure to listen to, and like the song quality is there. Like they're just some awesome riffs and awesome guitar solos, and really good vocal performance. I'd say it's like a strong A tier.
I would also put this song in eight, or this album in A tier. I strongly believe that this album is overhated and extremely underrated. I want to go as far as to say that this is my favorite Black Sabbath album of all time. Technically, Zero the Hero is the first Black Sabbath album or song that I've ever listened. And funny enough, it's the cover that I listened to first by Chris Barnes. And from there, that's how I discovered Zero the Hero was actually from Black Sabbath. So that's how I discovered this album. When I first started getting into metal, which was like 2016, 2017-ish, so it's been a bit. But yeah, I love this album so much. Trashed. It sounds just like the name. It sounds like a trashy song. It sounds like a frat house. Especially that one like crazy riff towards or solo towards the end where it's like that's a perfect name for such a trashy song, but I love it. Stonehenge in the Dark, I haven't heard those songs in years. Last time I checked, I didn't really care for them much. Um, Disturbing the Priest, like Aaron mentioned, I really love the Joker laughing at the beginning of it, and just the name, the song title in itself is a little disturbing, but the song itself is great. Zero the Hero is without a doubt the best song off the album. It sounds so sinister. It sounds so like I don't know, it just sounds so evil. And uh Digital Bitch is a great song. It's kind of like it kind of sounds like a funny song. Hotline is catchy. It kind of reminds me of Elvis for some reason. I don't know why. But Hotline is great. Uh Keep It Warm um is a great song as well. And I get why people don't really like that song as much or think it's the least or the weakest off the album. But I don't know, I like that song. And then Born Again, the self-titled, I really, really love Born Again. I love how like sad and mellow it sounds. I think it's the most sad song out of the album, like the most sad sounding. And I love the part where he goes like, where he raises his voice up, his highs, and then it just goes back down to like a depressive atmospheric tone or whatever you want to call it. Um, so yeah, and also fun fact, I think it's either this album or Black Sabbath's earlier albums where they purposely bought cheap, shitty guitars to have like their guitar tones sound the way it does that we know now. So I thought that was interesting. Production, like Maz said, you can definitely hear how muddy it sounds, but again, I feel like they did that on purpose. And I think I really love this album. It doesn't deserve the hate. People need to suck it up. I think it goes in A tier.
Zero the hero. Okay. Um. Okay. Yeah. I think it's a solid spot then.
Goes hard.
And next up we got. Yay! Yeah, I know
Oh
who's. I know
my
who's looking
God.
forward to this one. So my first opinion on this on Cathedral as a whole was, wow, those vocals suck ass. Did my opinion change going back to it? No, 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 it didn't. So this album is frustrating to me because it is an example of being butchered by bad vocals. Because, first of all, the intro track, the intro of the first track is pretty cool. The track actually has some solid instrumentals. I honestly love the guitar tone, heavy as hell. This album overall has great instrumentals and heavy riffs, but this album is just straight up butchered by the bad vocals, and they aren't even mixed well either. They are fairly quiet, and when they do come in, you are glad that they are quiet because when you realize that this could have been an instrumental doom album, and honestly, it would have been for the better. For the better. Soul Sacrifice is great. Too bad the vocals suck, and I wrote 3 exclamation points after those after those comments. Um, Overall, I have a love-hate relationship with this. I think the riffs are baller. Um, some cool guitar moments, but the vocals absolutely just fucking kill it. I was actually nice to this album. I gave it a B tier, but um, but if both of you have it lower, I'm fine with that because the only thing I give a shit about are some of the riffs on here. And will I go back to it? No, no, I will not. So who cares? That's all I have.
Starting off with positives, Soul Sacrifice is a cool song. Uh, you have a love-hate relationship with this album. I just hate it. This album sucks. Like, come on, man. The shortest song on here that isn't Soul Sacrifice is 6 minutes, and it's not even good. Uh, the fucking this album is 54 minutes long, and not a one song on it I really like. The vocals don't even bother me. This shit's just boring as fuck, and the production sucks. And um, I don't like the riffs. I don't like, other than Soul Sacrifice. Soul Sacrifice is, and there's like a few moments in Ebony Tears that I'm like, I kind of like when I heard a riff, I was like, oh, I kind of like pay attention to that. No, I don't like anything about this album. It sounds dated for the when it came out. It's the vocals, even though they aren't like the worst to me, they sound soulless and like he's not even trying. The fucking overall like dragging of this album feels awful, and this is not an album I will ever really ever willingly sit through again. Every time, like when I listened to this album in like for full for the first time, I was like going through like the playlist we made for this and like stuff like that. Every time a song from this album came on, I would skip it, and like even then, like they just kept coming on. Like autoplay was fucking with me at this point. I got like fucking 4 songs from this album in a row, and they were all like the longest songs on it, and I'm just like, holy shit. Like I genuinely would not recommend this album to a single person, let alone this band. I don't like it. This is a D tier, bro.
I feel better about my opinion now then. I don't understand why this album gets so much praise when Born Again gets so shit on. Like, come on, y'all. So on my notes, I wrote C is for Cathedral and C is also for Where I'd Rank this album. I think this album is pretty overrated. I think that it's fine, but there's nothing really that comes out as outstanding to me. It's just fine. And the production, they're actually pretty solid. They're not that bad. I will say that there are some highs in this album though, like A Funeral Request and Equilibrium. I actually kind of dig a bit. The vocals, okay, what I'm about to say does kind of sound outlandish, but the vocals kind of remind me of a less absurd version of Chris Barnes. That's what they remind me of. I'm fine with this being in C tier. I don't really care for the album as much. I felt like it was just it's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, and supposedly they're also not just a doom band; they're also a mid trad band too. Because I've heard a couple songs not off this album. They're fine. They're fine.
They have a pretty decent album called The Carnival Bazaar, but the vocals are even worse. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't get the hype for Cathedral. They sound dated
Yeah.
even for like, I'm reading like their Metal Archives page right now, and like it says they met at a Carcass show in 1989, and like that's cool as fuck. They met at Carcass in 1989, but then they were like, oh, we love Candlemass, Sabbath, Pentagram, Trouble, and then they just make the most mid stoner doom trad shit you've ever heard in the 90s, and it sounds dated for the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, we had albums like The Mandolin coming out in 1995, and then all throughout the 90s they're making mid shit. That just sounds bad.
Dude, fucking, what is it? Fucking Rainbow sounds better than this.
Dude, Rainbow sounds awesome.
I know.
Avo Glaze Rainbow, but it's not the time for that right now.
Alright, next album. Let's get to... Oh, cool. Typo Negative. Let's fucking go. Okay.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is World Coming Down by Typo Negative. In my personal opinion, their most doomiest album. To start, I really enjoy the production on this album. The buzzy bass is super identifiable when it comes to Typo. White Slavery is a song that grew on me after listening to it more, and I always found the title kind of funny, but I looked deeper into the lyrics, and it looks like it's about cocaine, which makes a lot more sense, because, you know, white slavery, what? Everyone I Love Is Dead is one of their best songs in their entire discog. It's not a fucking question. Everything about this song is great. The lead work, the chorus, the riffs, everything. Great track. The same can be said about Who Will Save the Sane. The title track is the longest track on here. My favorite part is the riffs after the chorus. It's just so fucking good. Creepy Green Light, the bass intro. Oh my god, yes, please. Just perfection. And everything Dies, there is a section where he goes, you can't really hear it unless you look at the lyrics. It says, I like vitamins, Pete likes vitamins. Kind of weird. Great song though. Paretta Blaze gotta have one of the best riffs on the entire album. It's so fucking good. Also, one of the best songs on the album too. All Hallows Eve is pretty great too. Overall, this album is consistent as hell. It is doomy. It is moody. It basically sounds what the album cover looks like. This isn't my personal favorite, but by them, I think it might be my second favorite though. I can't remember. Um, but just I used to not like Typo Negative, but but I would go back and kick myself in the fucking nuts if when I said that, because this album fucking rules. It's an easy S tier for me. That's all.
This is good as fuck. Like, um, Everyone I Love Is Dead is a masterpiece. Just straight up, that song is phenomenal. Um, Everything else is like consistent. After you said, the title track is awesome. The only song I'm not like really remembering right now is Creepy Green Light. Uh, Although I remember it being good. Paretta Blaze and All Hallows Eve back to back is like so fucking good. I think those two songs are like fantastic. Like this song just feels depressing and lonely and like when you said it looks exactly like the album cover, it really does just look like you're late at night and it's fucking like 1 a.m. and you're out in the like outskirts of the city and just like I don't know, man. Like it just this album has a feel, and I guess it's just like that Typo Negative feel that is so um I guess prevalent across all their music. But this is just like where you really feel it in every bit, every song. I love the keyboards and the riffs and the bass, everything about it. I just love everything about this album. The way it's produced, the vocals, the riffs, every song feeling so important to the overall vibe. There's just no skips, no dull moments at all. I think it's
My favorite album by Typo Negative used to be Life is Killing Me, but as of like a year ago, it has now been overtaken by World Coming Down. I've just grown to love how much, like, I feel like I'm a depressed person saying all this, but I just love how depressing this album sounds. I love how down it is. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the one album that Peter Steele wrote when he was really at his lowest, where he's lost everything and he felt hopeless and stuff. And you can really hear and feel that through his music, which is always amazing to hear. White Slavery, all these songs are great. Um, Everyone I Love Is Dead is an iconic song. World Coming Down, I love that song. Creepy Green Light. For some reason, just like Matt said, I can't remember how the riff goes. I just know I really like it a lot. Everything Dies is also, the chorus is also really iconic. Probably the most catchiest song off the album is Paretta Blaze. I love that chorus so much, and it's always the song that gets stuck in my head easily. And then All Hallows Eve is amazing. Just overall, I love the tone of their guitars. You can just tell that it's Typo Negative, which makes them distinct from a bunch of other bands. And I love Peter Steele's vocals, obviously. Just, it's a great album. I love the atmosphere, and even though it's very like grim and depressing, it's beautiful in the end. And I also really like the album cover, especially because I think I drove over that bridge when we went to New York City a couple months ago. It's like, oh, Peter Steele Bridge. But otherwise, I would put this album in A tier.
An A tier.
Yeah, I'd
All right. Well,
put it in A tier. Because there are a couple songs that I
damn. I
don't
I
really.
hate both of you.
I'm
Fine.
sorry, I'm not quite the Typo Blazer yet. I will probably get there.
Fine. We'll put that in the top of A. All right.
Yeah,
Next.
I would say it's like on par with Brave Bird Day for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, that's fair. All right, next album. Cool. We got the other
Ooh.
Trouble album. Before we begin, I just want to say to the person who's watching, you know who you are. Um, this is not S tier in my opinion. Just so you're aware. Um, so let's get into the depth of the album. Pray for the Dead's main riff is pretty cool. The middle of the song kind of loses me. Fear No Evil is cool. I like the second half a lot more, especially when it hits you with the Iron Maiden esque dueling guitar melody. The Wish has a sick main riff. Not gonna lie. The solo is fantastic. Really like the vibe of this one. The truth, the truth is what it is. Main riff sounds very Sabbathy. Epic blues moment to my guy. The Wickedness of Man is a baller song too. Gideon is pretty decent. The title track is alright, doesn't do much for me. The album has better production than Psalm 9 in my opinion, but the songs themselves are an overall step down. Pretty good album, not S tier. I would probably put this in a solid B tier. Um, yeah. I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have for the Skull. It's a solid listen. But I don't think it's amazing in any way, shape, or form. I think it's a solid listen. So yeah, that's all I have.
Um, I really like Trouble. No, so Pray for the Dead's really cool. I love that song. Um, the riff is like instantly earwormy. It's so like when I think of like a trad doom riff, I think of Pray for the Dead. Like that riff is just it's so like um the album cover looks kind of dumb. I just wanted to say like this album cover kind of looks like shit, but whatever. Fear No Evil, I don't remember well. Oh, I do remember. Actually, that sounds cool as fuck. Anyway, um, overall, I think my favorite song is Gideon. Gideon is a really cool song. Um, I like the production on this album a lot, but I do feel that the overall quality is a step down from Psalm 9. I will say this is like middle of the A tier for me, but I wouldn't care if it was like top B tier
Let's
or like
let's
low A tier or something. I don't
let's
care.
do that then.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. Um, cool. We got next album is cool. Crypt Sermon. Another modern
Oh hell yeah.
type doom band. I do like how this album starts out. Not very doomy, but very trad heavy metal esque. Like you're riding on a horse. Um, as the sample in the beginning like seems to make you want to believe. Keys of Solomon is heavy as hell. Reminds me of Epicus or Candlemass. It's got a sick chorus too. Our Revenant's Grave got hella riffs too. Um, Ironically, the part after the first verse where it goes into like a choir, that riff and groove kind of reminds me of Immortal, mostly because of how they use the high end strings. It just reminds me of like the Immortal riffage. The Snake Handler straight out of the gate sounds like a Solitude Eternus song. For some reason, when the vocals come in on this one, he sounds like Dave Mustaine. Beneath the Torchfire brings that epic, heavy, triumphant feeling back. The final track of the album, the title track, is a pretty solid closer. Probably one of my least favorites though. My issue with this album is that there are two interludes in a row, and it kind of ruins the flow of the album. Also, the people on Rate Your Music say that the singer sounds like Chester Bennington, which I don't see at all. I don't see at
What?
all. I don't see at all. Apparently he sounds like Chester Bennington, but no. This just proves my point that Rate Your Music users are fucking tone deaf. But besides the point, solid A tier. That's all I have.
I agree. It's probably a solid A tier, but my thoughts on it. I think the production is a little bit stale. I think it's like Like this is just like the most album sounding album you've ever heard. Like all of the Epic Doom we've covered so far has like a feel to it, and that comes straight from like its production. This doesn't have anything like super unique about it. Um, but I think I agree with your two interludes in a row. It's kind of unnecessary. The songs Key of Solomon and Christ is Dead are some of the coolest like modern Doom songs. Just like come out like they're so heavy and catchy. It really like I feel like it really encapsulates the more power metal influence that comes from Doom. You know, a lot of the common sayings is that like Epic Doom is kind of like if you slowed down power metal, and I think that's pretty accurate, especially with Crypt Sermon. They feel like a very like power metal-y band. I think that's cool. Um, I like a lot of the solos, and the vocalist is great. Like it's just an overall like super solid Epic Doom album to just listen to if you're a fan of the genre. I'd say it's just a good A tier, yeah.
I would put this album in A tier. I listened to it for the first time a few hours ago, and I will say that the first track, it intrigued me. It just pulled me in. I really loved that riff. Um, and then the second track, which is actually the first song I've heard off the album a while ago, that song, I really loved the riff, I guess, during the chorus. Um, the riffs throughout the album are consistent. The songs are consistent. I personally really like the interludes as well. I'm the type of person that downloads interludes. I just like them. They're like cute little 2-minute songs that give me a break from whatever I'm listening to on Spotify Shuffle. So, yeah, overall, I don't have much to say. I would just put this album in A tier because I did enjoy it a lot. I would just need some more time to love it some more, I guess.
Where to put it in A tier, I don't know.
I would
I'd
put it,
say towards the upper. I'd put it above like Paradise Lost,
Yeah,
like in the middle. Yeah,
that's a solid.
it's just like a super strong A tier.
Yeah, that's a solid place to put it. All right, next album. Hell yeah, just
It's glazing
one.
time.
It's fucking Forever Glaze. Here we go, bro.
The Forever Glaze.
Forever Glaze. Okay. In general, in this entire tier list, this is one of the most awesome albums I've ever had the pleasure of listening to. Not only is it, it is like Wheel. I think this came out the same year as Wheel, 2021. Um, it is a classic in both the doom and the death metal genre. They combine elements of funeral doom and black metal as well. Um, the riffs are so fucking good here. Like the Murk Above the Dark Moor is probably my favorite song off of here, and its sinister opening riff, and the riff near the 3 minute and 10 minute mark, where it cuts out, and it's just that fucking that left guitar coming in with that riff. It just sounds like you're being pulled into the abyss. Cloaked in Night Winds is just stupid heavy. Nightmare of the Necromancers really shows off some of the sick solos that this band can write, and I really love that creepy, cleanish guitar in the halfway point of the song. Really adds another layer of atmosphere after like the pounding heavy chugs. Uh, Sabaquius Funeral, however you pronounce it. I don't even know. I just love the guitar work on this. Centuries of Ooze. My favorite part is near the end where they use the clean vocals and it makes the atmosphere feel even more somber. Like, I literally go listen to that song for that part. That part is just so magical to me. Um, S tier without a question. One of my favorite Death Doom albums of all time. I think this ranks third in my list. Um, I just love the atmosphere. I love the guttural vocals that this band does, even though nowadays they are more pushing they are more pushing towards like more emperor style like black metal, or just they want to combine like funeral doom and black metal together, which is honestly pretty interesting in my opinion. This album, it grew on me so hard. I just love it. It's S tier. That's all I have.
I also think it's an S tier. I this is maybe the most atmospheric doom album I think I've ever heard. Like the synths, the guitars, the vocals, everything builds such a sinister sounding atmosphere. Like holy shit. And like the random shreddy guitar solos that'll come out of nowhere are so cool. I love them. I love the vocals. I love. I genuinely can't like say any more that you didn't say already. Um, my favorite my favorite songs are Forever, the title track, Murk Above the Dark Moor, and Emperor of Necromancers, Empire of the Necromancers, and then like I mean all of them are good, but like those three are just fucking incredible. It's an S tier.
I've listened to this album, I feel like only a couple times, so my memory for it's quite blurry. All I remember is that I enjoyed it enough to rate it as A tier. I remember it being quite atmospheric, like Maz said, and for those of the for those who know me, they know that I love atmosphere and whatever subgenre I listen to, and Doom is no exception. Uh, yeah, I would just stick it in A tier.
All right, since me and Maz have both put in S tier, it's going like in the middle. And you need to listen to this album more than you listen to that one song that has your favorite solo,
Yeah, I know.
which is also by the
I
same
can't
band.
help it. I know, I can't help it. So good.
All right, we got four more. Which one are we gonna get first? We're gonna get Master of Reality. Cool.
Oh hell yeah.
Okay, so this is probably my favorite Sabbath album. Reasons why: Sweet Leaf, Into the Void, Children of the Grave. Wild that this came out in '71 because it is heavy as balls. Children of the Sea has a baller main riff, and I always found the drumming on this song kind of funny because it sounds like he's hitting a bunch of paint cans at one point. You know what I'm talking about, where he's fucking.
I know what you're talking about.
I really like the bass tone on this, and it's just super tasty. Solitude is just lovely. Love the bass lines in the background of this one. Into the Void's just main riff is just incredible. And there's nothing really much to say about this album that hasn't already been said. This is an easy S tier for me. This might this kind of sucks to say, but this might be my least favorite S tier. But that being said, though, it's still incredible. But that's all I have.
This album's so good that people are still copying it. like, if it weren't for this album, we wouldn't have Sleep. We wouldn't have most of the trad doom bands from the '80s. We wouldn't have Church of Misery. I mean, Church of Misery literally ripped off this album and its album cover and name with an album called Master of Brutality. Like the guitar tone, the bass tone, the vocals, the imagery, Sweet Leaf spawned, like the weed imagery in doom metal and stoner. Like in usually you can rate an album pretty high just based off of, like what it did for the overall genre, but not only did it do that, it's got the quality to back that up. Like Lord of This World is one of my favorite Sabbath songs. It's so good. After Forever is awesome. Into the Void is one of the best Sabbath riffs, period. It's so iconic. It sounds so good. And everything Aaron said still stands for me. I think this is an S tier.
I don't. Well, I would put this album in A tier. maybe at the lowest high B tier. I do like Sweet Leaf a lot. This whole album in general, it kind of feels like you're listening to it while you're like under the use of weed or whatever. Um, so it's a classic album with a few bangers. I used to enjoy Children of a Grave a lot. I'm not as big fan of that song anymore because that is one of the first songs that I did listen to when I first started getting into metal almost 10 years ago. And I listened to it so much that it just sounds watered down now. There's like the spark that I used to have for that song is gone now, unfortunately. Sweet Leaf, After Forever, Into the Void, and Solitude are the best tracks off the album. Solitude feels like a cloud every single time I listen to it. And I don't know, Solitude is my favorite song off the album. And just the feeling that it invoked in me a few years ago when I got a little too silly with, you know what? I still remember, I don't know, I was in bed and just listening to that song and like feeling spaced out and seeing like a whole universe, seeing stars and stuff. I don't know. That song did something to me that I still talk about and think about to this day. And I've never felt that with any other song, maybe a couple Sublime songs. But yeah, I love that song so much. Um, yeah, this whole album just kind of reminds me of. I feel like this album is what Stoner Doom was influenced by a lot. But yeah, overall, I rank this album in A or B tier. It's a classic.
It is going in the bottom of A or S tier.
Oh wow, I wouldn't put it that high, but
Okay, well, it's two up against one, and it's at the very end, so you're gonna have to make a sacrifice.
so
Shut up.
should.
All right, we got three more. Which one are we gonna get at first? Hell yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is Death Penalty by Witchfinder General, and this is the first time I've ever listened to this album. I haven't heard this album prior to this tier list, but I have heard of the album and the band because there used to be someone with the username Poser Finder General. That's the reason why. Um, you can compare this to The Gathering for me, in terms of like, wow, I heard this for the first time. Wow, I'm impressed. Invisible Hate is a banger, but the vocalist needs to stop with the squeaky highs he does ever so often. This feels like a mix of Sabbath and Rainbow, which, hey, hell yeah, bro. Um, let's see here. A lot of great riffs. In the title track. Witchfinder General got like the song got a pretty like a sick slow heavy section. Burning a Sinner has got a sick riff and a catchy chorus. It's definitely my favorite off the album. Rip more cowbell. Um, overall, this album is great. I loved pretty much every second of it. Um, this is probably one of the best. This is probably the best. One of the best albums that Monica put in this tier list that I haven't heard before. This is a very high A to an S tier, in my opinion. That's all I have.
I agree. I like every single song on this album. I love the 80s feel. I love the trad. I love the doom. I love the vocals. All of it sound great. I would say high A tier.
I would put this album in A tier. I don't have much to say about it. Overall, it's a really solid album. I really love it. The songs that stand out to me the most is Witchfinder General, probably the most iconic song that they've put out. The vocals, they remind me of my nephew when he was 2 years old. But I know some people might not really be a big fan of the vocals, but I think they fit perfectly with this album, with just this band in general, with this band in Witchfinder General. Um, but yeah, I would just I would stick this album in A tier. I don't have much to say. It's just solid in all aspects.
Alright, it's going on the top of A then. Alright, we are gonna save Psalm 9 for last. This is from the Shadows by Unholy. This is one of my recs, and honestly, this kind of fell down for me a bit. The intro to Alone reminds me of something from Summoning, with that synth like Summoning, like the band, the black metal band. Also, who allowed the BDM drum into my Death Doom? The snare on this album is kind of tinny, like in a lot of BDM. I think Alone is kind of weak start to this album, but the acoustic guitar starts as when the acoustic guitar starts, it gets better. A pretty interesting clash between the dissonant instrumental and the clean vocals in Grey Blow. I like how heavy creative Lunacy gets, and then it breaks into a bongo jam section. Autumn is pretty neat, but it sounds like they are bullshitting on the guitars near the end. Stench of Ishtar is decent. Colossal Vision is hands down the best track on the album. Opening with a melodic lead, it feels like the most coherent because the rest of the album feels like a clusterfuck up to this point. At some points it reminds me of Asphyx. It's unfortunate because this song really displays the tinniness of the guitar tone, which is a gripe, but it doesn't hinder my enjoyment too much. The riff around the 1 minute mark at the end of the song is pretty baller. Time Has Come is also a banger. The closing track is alright. Overall, I think the album is decent / good, but it has some flaws, and that being the emptiness in a lot of the songs and the wackiness sometimes doesn't clash with me that well. And the guitar tone could have had more balls because it sounds really thin. The vocalist does kind of remind me of John Tardy though. This is a solid B tier for me. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this one, honestly. I don't like how long it is. I really hate the drums. They sound bad. The guitars give me like no serotonin whatsoever. Like most of the albums on this list here, I love the guitars more than anything. Like those are always like a highlight. But this one is just like the guitars. I don't like it. I can't even really think of any like songs specifically that I like. I remember liking Creative Lunacy enough, but meh, it's just like mid for me. Like it's an okay album, but it's not what I really like come back to all the time. I'd say it's like a C tier or like low B tier.
I don't have much to say about this album. I will give it credit though because I actually enjoy the guitar tones. I like how, I guess, messy they sound. Um, Overall, if I'm being honest, there's not much that I remember about this album. Other than the guitar tone, I know there were a couple tracks that I actually enjoyed, but otherwise it's just an album. I'd put it like in B tier or C tier.
Alright, let's just put it at the end of B then. Alright, we're at the final album, which I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, by a lot of people, I mean one person is wanting to know my opinion. And you're lucky that I listened to this a second time because this would probably would have ended up lower than I have put it my second listen because I was not impressed on my first listen, but my second listen is a different story. The first time I heard it, as I said, I thought it was overrated and just okay. But however, I got to the Tempter, which is the opening track. It's a banger. Damn, those riffs go hard. Assassin reminds me of Judas Priest. Victim of the Insane is pretty good as well. Revelation is an example of a song that gets better as it goes on. Bastards Will Pay is a decent song. It gets really good when the slower riff comes on. The Fall of Lucifer is also gets better as it goes on. And Time is good, but it seems to be a little disjointed at times, where some of the transitions are a bit rough. Title track is pretty fire. The last track is probably the weakest, but still decent. I really like the guitar tone. It sounds pretty beefy when it plays the lower notes. I think the drums are mixed a little weird. It's kind of like Spectral Sorrows by Edge of Sanity, where the snare sounds like it was recorded with a room mic instead of being properly mic'd up. Not as good as classics like Nightfall or Epicus, but still good in my opinion. High A tier is where I'd put it, and that's all I have.
If the person who knows who they are is probably watching this right now, I'm gonna step up to the plate for him. All right. Psalm 9 was one of the original Trad Doom albums I heard, and I still fucking love it. Like, The Tempter is straight up a ripoff of Black Sabbath. Like, you know the Black Sabbath like title track riff? It's just a ripoff, and it's awesome. um, Assassin's a really good song. I love the riff. I like that you said it reminded you of Judas Priest. I can hear it. Bastards Will Pay is really funny to me because this band, like up to this point, Treble is like a mega Christian band, and all their lyrics are very like Christianity based, and then just randomly in the middle of this song he says "fuck," and I think that's really funny. um, Also, it's just a good song. I really like their mid-bass songs. They feel very trad, like just completely. Follow Lucifer is awesome. Title track is awesome. My only complaint with this album is just the drum snare. I don't like the snare at all, but it grows on me. It kind of sounds like a ping pong ball hitting a table. But good album. I'd put it in like S tier, low S, mid S, whatever.
I would also put this album in S tier. Also, I really like the album cover. I think it's really pretty. The Tempter is definitely one hell of a song to first come across. When you first listen to this album. I love it so much. It's so good. I think it's because I'm so tired. I can't think of the other songs, how they sound, but I know every single song off this album is either a 10 out of 10 or an 11 out of 10. It's so good. I love the guitar tone so much. It's probably one of my favorites that I've listened to. My favorite song off the album is Bastards Will Pay. And like Aaron mentioned, the slower riff towards like the middle or end of the song, that part is what I look forward to the most with that song. It's just so good. It makes me so happy. I love it. This is probably the most happy sounding Doom album that I really enjoy and I give like a 10 out of 10. It's so good. Psalm 9 is amazing. I love the vocals. I think it's amazing. Also, I really like how the album cover incorporates a skull in the dirt. I think that's really cool. But otherwise, I put this in S tier. It's an amazing album.
Alright.
I don't have much complaints about
Put
it.
it at right there, near the end. Alright, that is all the Doom albums we have ranked. Leave a comment if you agree or disagree, and why you disagree or agree. But yeah, that is all. Thank you guys for being here, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.